Warrior Lore. Chapter 4960. Black Lake watched as the burly man left, and his expression gradually became solemn. He had seen many invaders this time, but none of them had the same aura as the burly man. It was an indescribable strangeness that made him feel a strong sense of threat. When the burly man came to the entrance, he saw some people from the Immortal Slayer city. Not everyone had gone deeper, and some of them stayed here. They were mainly guarding against Zichun and the two old men in black and white. It would be troublesome if this passage was closed. The burly man's appearance immediately attracted their attention. They all stood up and stared at him warily. The burly man walked over and looked at them. "Who's the city lord now?" Everyone looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. The burly man did not wait for their reply, and his face was filled with impatience. In the next moment, he stepped forward, grabbed a person's head, and began to search his soul. "What are you doing? You're courting death." The others shouted angrily and rushed toward the burly man. Boom! The burly man's aura became violent, forming a strong wave that spread out. Everyone who rushed forward was sent flying by the wave. When they landed, they looked at the burly man with fear in their eyes. Just his aura alone was so powerful. How powerful was his combat strength? No one dared to step forward. As for the existence whose soul was being searched by the burly man, his body was trembling nonstop. After a while, he stopped moving. "Unify all worlds." A smile appeared on the burly man's face. "That's what I want. Zichun, right?" He turned his head to look at the world in front of him. "I'll kill him. You guys, follow me." "Yes, my lord." Seeing this, they did not dare to disobey because the previous one had his soul searched and lost his vitality. The burly man appeared beside the skull mountain. He felt the resentment power in the skulls and nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad, it's you guys." He punched out, and the skull mountain in front of him dispersed with a bang. The power left by Zichun also dissipated. At this moment, there were quite a few cultivators from the Saint Spirit realm watching this spectacle. After seeing the skull mountain disintegrate, several people immediately flew forward as if they wanted to find the brawny man to reason with. The burly man turned his head and glanced at the people who came. He did not make a move, but these people's lives disappeared like candlelight. In the Tianwu world, Zichun was still cultivating. After opening the second realm, he felt that Theseus had an ulterior motive. Suddenly, his expression changed. The aura he had left behind at the Skull Mountain had disappeared. Logically speaking, no one would dare to behave atrociously in that place. Looking at the two cities, everyone should give him some face. His figure immediately disappeared, and the next moment, he appeared in the void where the Skull Mountain was. All the skulls scattered and floated in the air. Zichun's face immediately showed a hint of anger. It was obvious that someone had ruined his plan. Many people in the distance were looking in this direction in fear. To be more precise, they were looking at a muscular man. "It's you?" Zichun saw the muscular man. At this moment, the muscular man was also sizing up Zichun. "I'll give you a chance to live. From now on, you'll be my dog by my side." A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Otherwise, this world will be destroyed." "Who are you?" Zichun looked at him. If he dared to speak like this, as long as he was not sick in the head, he must have something to rely on. "Brady, from now on, I'm your master." Brady's gaze was cold as he scanned Zichun. "I've heard of your deeds and found them very interesting. Now, I'll give you 3 breaths of time to consider. After 3 breaths, not only will you die, but this place will also be destroyed." "I don't think I've ever heard of an expert like you," Zichun continued. "I just came out from the void." "Of course you haven't heard of me, kid." Brady smiled proudly. Zichun's expression changed. He finally knew what the other party was relying on. The void of the trial realm had infinite secrets. During this period, many people had lost hope in the immortal arts world and entered the depths of the void to explore its secrets. From then on, they never returned. It was said that these people were traveling in the void. Some even said that they were lost in the depths of the void, never to return. But now, one person had returned. Those who dared to enter the depths of the void were all existences who had lost hope in the immortal arts world. Their cultivation had reached the peak. So they left. The black dragon had said that those who entered the depths of the void were all high heaven's chosen cultivators. Now that one had returned, what cultivation level was he? Could it be above the heaven's chosen realm? You can actually return from the void? Could it be that you discovered the secret of the void? Zichen's face had a trace of shock. Actually, half of it was an act, and the other half was his true emotions. Now, he was thinking of a way to deal with Brady, or to resolve this crisis. Clearly, the other party had come with ill intentions. Humph. Brady smiled proudly. Naturally, I've grasped some. My time is limited. Will you agree to be my dog, or will you follow this world to destruction? Zichun did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at those skulls with resentment behind him. They were already dead, but their resentment was still there, and they could still be revived if he wanted to. You want to revive them? I want to become the ruler of the immortal arts world. Of course, I have to create an army of absolute loyalty. Brady pointed behind him. They are very suitable. This is also why I'm willing to give you a chance to live as a dog. Otherwise, I would have killed you long ago. You found the immortal arts world? Zichen's expression changed again. No, I want to be the new ruler of the immortal arts world, Brady said proudly. I approve of the plan to unify the myriad worlds, and I've also tacitly approved of it. I'm afraid you don't have the final say in this matter. It requires the approval of a supervisor. And as far as I know, there are many supervisors who have agreed. Before Zichun could finish, Brady interrupted him. If the supervisors dare to disobey, I'll just kill them. Do they really think they're invincible here? This time, Zichun was really stunned. The other party didn't look like a brainless person. That meant he had the strength. He could even kill a supervisor. What kind of realm was that? Or was it the realm of the immortal arts world? Sir, can you let me think about this matter? After all, I'm only at the initial stage of the heaven's chosen realm, and my realm is still very low. Sir, you're an expert who dared to enter the void to explore the infinite future. When you left back then, you were already at the advanced stage of the heaven's chosen realm. Now that you've returned, your realm must be one level higher. Before Zichun could finish speaking, Brady laughed heartily, very pleased with himself. Clearly, Zichun's words made him feel very comfortable. However, there was a hint of disdain in his smile. The geniuses of the world are indeed proud. I know you're unwilling to accept this, kid. You think you can fight very well, but your current realm is too low. Very well, I'll wait for you. But what I want to tell you is that you're only at the initial stage of the heaven's chosen realm. Even if you're at the advanced stage of the heaven's chosen realm, killing you will be as easy as flipping my hand. There's a huge gap between you and me. It's not the realm, but the essence of power. Brady took the heads and flew into the distance. I'll go find those supervisors first. When I return, I'll deal with you. Who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth? Zichun turned around and cupped his fists. Thank you, sir. Your attitude is somewhat like a dog. I'm very satisfied. Chapter 4961. After Brady left, Zichun straightened his back. Everyone in the distance looked at him with complicated expressions. It was as if they were not used to the number one person in the Saint Spirit world being so humble. However, some of the older cultivators bowed to Zichun. Their backs bowed like Zichun just now. Only they knew that the conversation just now did not determine the life and death of Zichun alone, but the life and death of the entire Saint Spirit world. Zichun's lord and his humility were exchanged for the hope of survival for all living things. The others came to their senses and bowed as well. Disperse, all of you. Cultivate well. Only by being strong yourself is the foundation of everything. Zichun waved his hand, and everyone dispersed from the void. The Skull Mountain scenic spot disappeared just like that. Balek descended from the sky. He had seen the previous scene. Senior, what's the situation with him? Zichun asked. Maybe he really found the secret of the void, Balek replied. Zichun's expression changed. Then what he said is true. Maybe. Balek was a little melancholy. If he can really kill the supervisor, then the situation of this world will change again. His goal is to unify the 10,000 worlds. Zichun said, What will happen then? I'm not sure. Even the immortal spell world has never unified the 10,000 worlds. Balak shook his head. He was a little melancholy. It seemed that troubled times had come. Trouble came one after another. Now, even the supervisors were in danger. Zichun had handled the situation very well. Otherwise, this world and Zichun would have been destroyed. For an existence of that level, it was just a matter of waving his hand. Fortunately, he did not wave his hand. What are your plans next? Balak looked at Zichun. Zichun smiled bitterly. First, I'll work hard to cultivate and try to break through again. Actually, I had the urge to fight him before, but I was a little worried that his combat strength was too strong. What if I couldn't stop him? Why do you want to fight? Balak asked, puzzled. You want to test his combat strength? I want to grow quickly. Right now, only battle can stimulate my potential. The only thing Zichun could rely on right now was the mysterious energy in his heart. Perhaps he would be able to get more feedback during an intense battle. Actually, Zichun would improve if he cultivated slowly. However, meeting Brady today made him feel a strong threat. He could only speed up. Blake understood and said, "Does that mean you want to get beaten up?" Zichun paused for a moment, then nodded. Something like that. Then go look for Blacklake. He's had this idea for a long time. I believe he'll definitely satisfy your needs. Now, I'll follow them to see what's going on. If there's no other way, just hide. As long as there's life, there's hope. Balak's figure vanished. Zichun returned to the Martial Heaven continent. At the same time, he warned everyone not to go out if there was nothing important. Seeing his solemn expression, everyone nodded in agreement. After that, Zichun went to the trial realm to look for Blacklake. The two of them first talked about Brady. It turned out that Blacklake had long since sensed that something was wrong. As for whether or not Brady could kill the Watchers, he wasn't sure. Zichun explained his purpose for coming. Blacklake nodded. If that's all you want, then there's no problem. The next moment, the two of them were in an independent space. Zichun's body flashed with light as he prepared for battle. Blacklake raised his hand and pointed at the sky. The sky darkened as a palm print descended. This palm print filled the entire space. There was no way to avoid it. Zichun roared. Golden light curled around him as he punched at the sky. Boom! The space trembled as a powerful force surged. The palm print exploded. Blacklake nodded and said, "Not bad." He pointed at the sky a second time. Buzz. The previous palm print appeared again, but this time, there was an indescribable aura in the palm print. Zichun clenched his fist again. Boom. The palm print didn't explode this time. Instead, it pressed down and slapped Zichun to the ground. Then, the palm print turned into a fist and smashed towards Zichun. Boom, boom, boom. This independent space shook violently as if it could shatter at any time. Zichun lay on the ground, his body flashing with golden light. A huge fist kept smashing him over and over again. He couldn't react at all. At this moment, if others were to see this scene, it would definitely be a shocking scene. Zichun, who could even kill a high-level Heaven's Chosen, couldn't fight back at this moment. Boom, boom, boom. After dozens of punches in a row, the golden light around Zichun dimmed. Blacklake finally withdrew his fist and asked with a smile, "How do you feel?" Zichun stood up, his face full of surprise. "Senior, how did you do it?" Blacklake said, "This is the power of the immortal spell world, and the real reason why we can't die. It comes from a high-level world. Do you understand?" Zichun nodded. Of course he understood. Zichun also grasped the world's laws, and was even connected to the entire Saint Spirit world's laws. However, the grade was still inferior to Blacklake's. This was just like when Zichun entered the myriad spirit world from the Saint Spirit world. With the Saint Spirit world's laws, he could suppress anyone in the lower realm. It wasn't just because of his high realm, but also because of the grade of his laws. Brady is confident in killing the supervisor. Does he have the ability to go against the immortal spell world's laws? Zichun asked again. Blacklake shook his head. This was what he didn't know. Let's continue. Before Zichun could speak, Blacklake spoke first. The palm print in the sky fell again. How was this a spar? This was clearly a one-sided beating. Chapter 4962. The supervisor, who was sent flying by Brady, had an ugly expression on his face. He stared at Brady and shouted, "You're courting death!" The sky suddenly shook, and a terrifying palm print descended from the sky. The palm print carried a powerful aura, as well as the superior laws of the immortal spell world. Brady raised his head and looked at the palm print without fear. His eyes flashed with mockery as he said, "A mere supervisor is nothing much." He released his powerful aura, and the entire world trembled. The void showed signs of shattering. The many floating heads behind him were also swaying with this aura. He shot up into the sky. Boom! The palm print in the sky dissipated. Brady stood above the palm print, looking down at the supervisor with cold eyes. The supervisor's eyes were filled with shock. This scene was beyond his understanding. How can you? Possibly. Brady descended from the sky and said indifferently, "Nothing is impossible. We came from these worlds, and this is the place where miracles are created. You came from the sky and enjoyed the ready-made miracles. You should know how extraordinary we are, right?" He was completely disdainful of this supervisor. "Get lost. I'm not here for you." This time, the supervisor did not dare to refute. Brady's previous move had destroyed his greatest trump card, which dealt a huge blow to his confidence. "You're looking for me?" A ray of light appeared. It was Seuss. At the same time, several rays of light landed. They were all from the radical faction like Seuss, and they stared at Brady. "You're in charge here?" Brady sized up Seuss. The people behind Seuss stepped forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with him when they heard him. This was to make their stance clear. "It's us." Seuss did not care about these details. Brady snorted and said, "That's why you lack a true leader. Coincidentally, I'm back. From now on, all of you will follow me and listen to my orders." "Just you? What right does a mere lower realm being have to order us around?" Besides Seuss, Unradical had a disdainful expression. "Just this." Brady clenched his fist and punched out. A shining fist went straight for the supervisor from before. Bam! The supervisor was sent flying. When he came back, there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He glared at Brady, but did not dare to do anything. He was very depressed. "There are so many supervisors, so why do you keep finding trouble with me?" "You?" Seeing this scene, the faces of the monitors changed. All of them knew very well what level of existence they were. As supervisors, they could completely look down on these people from the lower realms. But today, the other party had broken this rule. Although it was only a light injury and far from fatal, it was enough to break their understanding of immortality. "How is it?" Brady looked at the shocked monitors. "Our goal is to open up the infinite worlds and explore the depths of the void together. Since you are willing to lead everyone, this is of course a good thing," Seuss said. At this moment, he clearly recognized Brady as the leader. The other monitors were shocked by the source of Brady's power. "That's more like it," Brady sneered. He then turned around and looked at the floating heads. Whoosh! With a wave of his sleeve, the life force of the enormous world was forcibly extracted and injected into the heads. Those resentful consciousnesses were awakening. At the same time, the vitality of the entire world began to be devoured by these human heads. As a lot of life force flowed away, many planets in this world began to move. The order of heaven and earth became chaotic. The earth on the planets shook, volcanoes erupted, and waves swept across. The world was gradually heading toward destruction. The injured monitor stood there with an ugly expression. "Hurry up and find the next world. This place can't be saved," Brady urged. "The entrance to the third realm has just been found," Seuss said. "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and open it." Brady was somewhat impatient. He wanted to become the master of the infinite worlds. "Follow me." Before Brady left, he turned his head and glanced at the human heads that were still absorbing life force. "You guys stay here and recover first?" "Yes, my lord." All the human heads transmitted a complete divine consciousness. Obviously, their consciousness had recovered a little. Balek returned to the Saint Spirit realm. He looked at this world full of vitality with a sigh. The second realm was obviously on the verge of destruction. Fortunately, Zichan dealt with it properly. Otherwise, the first realm would be the first to be destroyed. He left the Saint Spirit realm and went to the Trial realm to find Zichan. Boom, boom, boom. In the space, powerful attacks kept falling. Balak had no intention of holding back. Zichan lay on the ground and did not get up. Balak was speechless when he saw this scene. He really didn't hold back. Crack. He heard the sound of Zichan's bones shattering. His heart skipped a beat. This was too ruthless. Balak appeared directly. Balak stopped attacking and asked, "Why are you here?" Zichan sat cross-legged and began to heal his injuries. His heart was beating vigorously, constantly injecting energy into his body. At the same time, in his sea of consciousness, the black stone was releasing soul power faster. When Balak told them about what he had seen earlier, the two men's expressions changed. Zichan had personally experienced how powerful the monitor's ability was. He could not break through the restrictions of the rules at all. However, Brady could. This was enough to prove that he had obtained the power of the void and had the means to suppress the monitor. In other words, the monitor was no longer invincible and his life was in danger. What did Seuss say? Zichan asked. He was very concerned about Seuss' attitude. Seuss also acquiesced, Balak said. He's willing? Zichan was a little surprised. It was obvious that Brady was here to snatch the fruits of their labor. Yes. At first, some of the watchers weren't happy, but after Brady injured one of them, Seuss recognized him as the leader. Recalling the previous scene, Balak said, "However, I still feel that there's something strange." Zichan looked at him, waiting for him to continue. According to Brady's character, even if he wants to intimidate, he shouldn't injure the monitor, Balak said. If there's really a myriad worlds, there will be at least 10,000 monitors. Since he wants to intimidate, he doesn't care about killing one. Killing with force is much more shocking than injuring with a single blow. Zichan said, "You mean he might not have the strength to kill the monitor?" "It's just a guess. I can't be sure. If one wanted to be sure of something like this, they had to pay the price with their lives. But even so, Brady was already powerful enough. At the very least, Zichan was certain that he wasn't Brady's match. Even if he became a high-level Heaven's choice, he might not be a match for him, unless he also had the power of the void. Chapter 49:63. It was unrealistic for Zichan to take a trip to the void. He didn't have the time or the energy. If Brady came back and couldn't see him, his world would probably be in trouble. Balak went back again. He needed to watch the Saint Spirit realm to prevent accidents. Zichan continued to be beaten here. During this time, he tried to resist Balak's attacks, but he didn't succeed even once. There was a clear gap between them. After Balak went back, he came to the second realm again. He needed to watch here. Accidents were most likely to happen here. Brady came to the entrance of the third realm, which was discovered by Theseus. "Are you sure?" Brady looked at Theseus and said, "Is the passage here?" Theseus nodded and said, "I have a talent that allows me to sense abnormal fluctuations in space." No wonder. Brady turned and punched out. Streams of power flowed on the surface of his fist, emitting a powerful aura. Theseus looked at Brady's fist and the power on it. The power made him feel threatened. Boom. The space shattered, and the third realm was forcefully opened. "Let's go in and take a look." Brady took the lead and walked in. Theseus and the others followed. The vitality of the second realm was flowing away rapidly. Planets and worlds exploded one after another because of the chaos of the rules. The creatures in this realm fell into fear. They could fly out of this world and take refuge in the void. Those who couldn't fly were heading toward destruction as the world shattered. The injured overseer watched silently and did not stop them. Sorrowful cries kept coming out. The second realm fell into a desperate atmosphere. Balak sighed. If Zichan hadn't handled it well, the first realm might have been finished. Infinite vitality poured into those heads. After absorbing the vitality, the head's consciousness began to recover. At the same time, their bodies began to condense. Zichan had killed too many people. Moreover, this world hadn't fully recovered. There wasn't even a demon. These existences stronger than demons were fatal when they devoured vitality. Swish. Some people with lower realms condensed their physical bodies in advance. He had a smile on his face and flew into the distance. He came to a world outside and flew in. The world, which was already in chaos, immediately became a chaotic mess. Balak stood in the void and watched this scene quietly. His heart was filled with endless emotions. There was also a lot of helplessness. Fearing that Brady would notice him, he retreated to the entrance again. The heads recovered one after another, turning into real bodies. Then, they went to different parts of the world in search of life and other forms of entertainment. After all, the grade of this world was limited. It was impossible to provide enough resources for these people to revive. When a heaven's chosen state cultivator awoke, his body was still in an illusory state. Sensing this world, he said directly, "How much vitality can we obtain here? Let's go to the first realm." The expressions of the other beings who were recovering changed. Their bodies, which were already unstable, showed signs of collapsing. The first realm had Zichun, the god of slaughter, guarding it. Wouldn't it be suicide to go there now? Seeing the fear in everyone's eyes, the heavens chosen said, "You all saw what happened not long ago. In front of the Lord, Zichun was like a dog. But we are my Lord's subordinates. Our status is higher than his. If we turn back this time, would he dare to say anything?" After all, they had already died once. They didn't want to die a second time. "What are you afraid of? If he dares to kill us, my Lord will definitely kill him when he returns." The heavens chosen state continued. "He's afraid of death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have submitted to my Lord. As my Lord's dogs, why can't we go to his world to take some things?" Blake heard the conversation between the two of them and left without a second thought. He had to tell Zichun about this. As a supervisor, he couldn't interfere with this kind of grudge, so he had to tell Zichun the truth. Actually, he was a bit conflicted. In his heart, he still hoped that Zichun could seize the time to break through. As for the Saint Spirit realm, even if he lost some, it was an acceptable price. But he was also very worried. What if these people went straight to the Tianwu world and he didn't inform Zichun? That would be a huge problem. Those people could do anything. In the Tianwu world, they were all people that Zichun cared about. So, he told Zichun the truth and gave the choice to Zichun. Zichun didn't say anything and turned back. He first returned to the Tianwu world and signaled Su Mingyao and the others to be on guard. Then he went to the entrance. As soon as he arrived, some existences walked out from the second realm. Seeing Zichun standing there, their expressions changed and they subconsciously retreated. "I was wondering who it was. Isn't this my Lord's new dog? Why did he run over himself? Is he here to welcome us?" A faint voice sounded from behind. A heaven's chosen state whose body was still illusory and whose aura was unstable walked out from the crowd. Zichun obviously recognized him. He was the one who sent the 5 golden bells back. When the others heard the words of the heaven's chosen state, they stopped retreating and looked at Zichun with cold eyes. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that enemies had met. "Go back now and I'll let you live," Zichun said coldly. "Once we go back, the second realm will be destroyed by us and all living things will be slaughtered." The heaven's chosen state said, "Do you have the nerve to watch them die? There are so many innocent living things. Do you have the heart to watch them die?" He pointed behind Zichun. "Look at the world you protect. It's big enough, and there are many planets and worlds. There are many living beings. No matter how cruel we are, no matter how much we kill, we can't destroy this place completely. So, why don't you do us a favor and let us destroy and kill here to save the second realm?" Zichun said coldly, "I'll say it again. If you retreat now, you can live. Otherwise, you'll all die." "Trying to scare us?" The heaven's chosen state sneered. "You think we're scared? We're my Lord's subordinates. You're just his new dog. What right do you have to order us around?" The others looked at Zichun's cold expression and weren't afraid anymore. Because if they had the guts, Zichun wouldn't say a word and would just kill them. Now, Zichun only talked nonsense and didn't attack. This proved that he didn't have the guts. It seemed that he was indeed afraid of my Lord. "Everyone, you see, he doesn't have the guts to attack us." The heaven's chosen state smiled. "Now, everyone can destroy as much as they want here. Destroy whatever you want." He looked at Zichun. I heard that you have a world that was previously sealed. Now that it has been opened, my first stop will be that place. Everyone you care about, destroy the bodies of the men and leave their heads behind. Let them feel the pain we suffered before. As for the women, we have many ways to torture them. The other waved coldly. Everyone, let's go. Wang. Chapter 49:64. The 5 golden bells floated in the air, shining brightly. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed and they all stopped. Was he going to attack? The Heaven's Chosen smiled coldly and said disdainfully, "What? Are you trying to scare us? Retreat and you can live." Zichun was still restraining himself, even though he didn't want to. You're just a dog that the Lord just found, and you want to be a human in front of us? Try touching us if you have the guts. The Lord will soon come back and destroy you. The Heaven's Chosen said disdainfully, not only will you die, but the world you protect will also be destroyed. Don't you represent their will? You can die with them. But if you scram now, we're just going to mess around in this world. Although we'll lose some people and a part of the world, it's better than all of us dying, right? Zichen's eyes were cold. Don't look at me like that. I'm actually thinking for you. After all, you also want to live, right? The Heaven's Chosen said with a smile, actually, there's another way. That is, you can invite us to your world and treat us well. Maybe we'll only mess around in your world and won't go anywhere else. By the way, do you have a woman you like? I have a hobby. I'm only interested in other people's women. If you're willing to contribute and let me enjoy, maybe we can discuss other things. The Heaven's Chosen laughed. How about it? Isn't this a good suggestion? Zichen took a few steps back. The Heaven's Chosen said, yes, that's right. That's what a dog should. Before he could finish, the golden bell above his head vibrated and rang. A ripple spread out, and the illusory bodies of several existences disappeared, leaving only a head floating. You dare to attack? The Heaven's Chosen without a body screamed, Zichun, do you want to die? You dare attack us, how dare you? Immediately, several people walked up. They were all smart people and could naturally see that Zichun was worried. Otherwise, with Zichen's personality, he would have slaughtered everyone, not so benevolent. Therefore, the more Zichun behaved like this, the more unafraid they were. Get out of the way, or we'll go back and look for the Lord. That's right. Once the Lord arrives, what awaits you will definitely be death. Seeing how angry you are, there should be someone you care about, right? Don't worry, we'll be more magnanimous and just play without killing. Today, we'll make it clear. Either you die, or let us pass. If you continue to stand in our way, you will only infuriate us. The crowd was obviously not afraid. Even if some of them were only left with their heads, they could still glare at Zichen angrily. For a moment, spittle flew everywhere. Zichun sighed and said, it seems that we can only choose the third option. There is no third option. We will only give you 2 options, said the Heaven's Chosen coldly. The third path is my own choice. Zichen looked at them. Since there was no way out, he might as well fight. Dang! The bell tolled again, and the golden ripples surged. This time, the remaining people all disappeared, leaving only their heads floating in the air. You, the Heaven's Chosen realm cultivator, was enraged, but before he could finish, a golden light flew over and pierced his head with a poof. Just like before, it destroyed his vitality, leaving behind a wisp of remnant soul. Seeing this, the others no longer had the arrogance on their faces. Obviously, their aggressiveness did not make Zichun submit. Instead, it forced him to walk on another crazy path. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The golden light swam, piercing through one head after another. Lord, please spare us. The other heads hurriedly begged for mercy. They did not want to experience the pain they had experienced before again. Zichun was expressionless. Since he had chosen to kill, he would not hold back. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The remaining heads were pierced one after another. After all the invaders had their heads pierced, Zichun walked to the entrance. On the other side of the entrance, the others had already heard the news. After learning that Zichun had started a massacre, they dispersed in an uproar. No matter how much courage they had, they would not dare to go over and behave atrociously. Zichun did not kill his way over. He just stood at the entrance of the first realm. After taking a look at the ruined second realm, he turned back and looked at the heads. He said coldly, "After this crisis, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Even if you can't avoid it, I will still make you suffer the pain of having your souls refined. If I die, I will destroy you first before I die." From those heads, there were begging waves. These people regretted it. They had already revived, but they still had to find trouble with Zichun. Now, they were back to the past. A fate worse than death. Zichun sat cross-legged at the entrance and began to cultivate. During this time, he lowered his head and glanced at his heart. "Whether or not I can escape this calamity depends on you." Balak returned to the Tianwu world and secretly told Su Mingyao and the others that there might be danger in the future. He told them to go to the Holy Talisman realm to hide first. The Tianwu world had always kept the entrance to the Holy Talisman realm. Everyone knew the severity of the matter. After the trial and the invasion of Heaven's Chosen, they had become ordinary existences. Even though they were worried about Zichun, they could do nothing and could only leave. Zichun had his own selfish motives. He only informed a portion of the people and did not ask everyone in the world to retreat. He would not retreat a single step and live or die with this world. Brady went to the third realm and no one knew when he would return. A Heaven's Choice realm cultivator volunteered to leave this place and enter the third realm to look for Brady. Perhaps Brady would reward him greatly if he reported such a big matter to his superiors. When he arrived here, his Heaven's Chosen power erupted. He could clearly sense this world. At the entrance of the fourth realm, he found Brady and immediately went forward to call him Lord. "Who are you?" Brady looked at him. "Lord, I am McCarthy, who has just revived. As soon as you left, Zichun came out and started a massacre." McCarthy stepped forward and said, "Zichun?" Brady furrowed his brows. "He's got guts." McCarthy nodded and said, "We have already warned him that we are Lord's subordinates, but he still didn't listen. He has already killed many of us." Seuss sneered. "This Zichun is indeed audacious." Brady looked at McCarthy and said, "But you treated me like an idiot. You deserve to die even more." With that, he punched out. McCarthy's body instantly exploded, and even his soul was destroyed. Chapter 49:65. If McCarthy treated Brady like a fool, he was simply courting death. If he had told the truth, he might have been able to survive. Even if Zichun was given a few more guts, he believed that Zichun would not dare to go to the second realm to cause trouble. On the way back, Brady had even guessed what had happened. However, Zichun had still touched his people. If he did not teach him a lesson, then what dignity would he have left as the future #1 person in the myriad of worlds? When he returned to the second realm, it had already been destroyed beyond recognition. However, Brady did not say anything. In the future, he would have the myriad of worlds. He did not care about the destruction of a mere world. Those who had not recovered came forward one by one, bowed to Brady, and then told him what had happened. As Brady had guessed, they had gone to the first realm and were killed by Zichun. "Let's go to the first realm," Brady said. "Next, you will recover in the first realm." Cheers immediately erupted from the surroundings. It was not only because there was more vitality and energy in the first realm, but also because they could take revenge there. They believed that this time, their destructive power would be dozens or even hundreds of times greater than last time. Brady walked forward, and the others followed behind. No one dared to lead the way, because they might encounter Zichun first. Brady saw Zichun at the entrance. Zichun, who was seizing the time to cultivate, opened his eyes and looked at Brady. Not long after, the two met again. "You have guts." Brady's expression was gloomy. "You even dared to kill my people." The others followed and stood behind Brady. Zichun cupped his fists and said, "I want to protect this world. They went too far. I had no choice." When the people behind saw Zichun's attitude, they were all very disdainful. When facing them, Zichun was as cold as a killing god. However, when facing Brady, he was instantly terrified. "So, I should forgive you?" A hint of mockery flashed across Brady's mouth. Then thank you, sir. Zichun cupped his fists again. Brady said, You're welcome. Seeing that you performed very well, I'll let it go this time. As for them, they will recover here in the future. Zichun's expression changed as he said, Yes, but you are not allowed to destroy or kill. If we don't destroy and kill, how can we recover quickly? A person at the back said in dissatisfaction. Clearly, he was not afraid because of the presence of his superior. Brady looked at Zichun, his eyes gradually turning cold. You still want to stop me? I wouldn't dare, but this is my hometown. They can come in and recover, but they can't kill innocent people. Zichun said, This is my bottom line. Brady smiled disdainfully. Your bottom line? Would it work for me? Since they were already here, they naturally did as they pleased. I, Brady's men, will not restrain themselves no matter where they go, now and in the future. Listen up. Once you're here, you can kill as you wish. You can do whatever you want. Zichun looked at Brady. Sir, are you serious? Brady said. Are you worthy of my jokes? Zichun nodded and retreated. Brady said sarcastically, At least you know what's good for you. Otherwise, before he could finish speaking, 2 rays of light appeared beside Zichun and charged toward the people behind Brady. This time, Zichun did not choose to leave their souls behind. Instead, he destroyed them all. Only by slaughtering these people would there be a trace of peace in this world. Actually, Zichun was already regretting it. If he had known this would happen, he would have killed them all and not left their heads behind. Then, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The massacre spirits and Tao swords pierced through the heads of existences one after another, destroying their souls one after another. They sensed Zichun's resolute attitude, so they became even more lethal. You're courting death. Brady was enraged. He did not expect Zichun to be so bold as to kill people in front of him. In his opinion, Zichun's retreat meant that he had submitted. Swoosh. He instantly appeared in front of Zichun and punched at Zichun. The strange power of the void had been mobilized. Zichun, who was retreating, crossed his arms in front of him. Boundless golden light circulated as the immortal golden body was activated. There was no counterattack, only defense. Just as he was in full defense, the 5 great golden bells appeared in the sky again. However, it was not the sky where he was, but the sky where the existences who had just been revived were. Clang! The bells rang, full of killing power. Nearly 100 people died on the spot. Zichun was multitasking and destroyed everyone's souls. Zichun was fighting this battle for the last battle of his life. Therefore, he did not care about consumption and only wanted to kill the enemy. Boom! Brady's fistlight exploded and Zichun was sent flying. Blood streaked across the sky. Brady, who had just punched, was stunned because he did not kill his opponent. Not to mention exploding his body, even his bones were not broken. Interesting. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he approached again in a flash. His speed was even faster than teleportation. After approaching Zichun, a terrifying fist light was magnified in his field of vision. Boom! When the second punch landed, Zichun retracted his arms and hit his own chest, instantly shattering his own bones. Brady's attack was even stronger than Blacklake's. Your physical body is not bad. Brady's eyes had a touch of surprise. At his level, 2 punches had not killed an initial stage Heaven's Choice. This was very thought-provoking. Therefore, after approaching, he punched for the 3rd time. Crack! Zichun's bones were all broken, and he coughed up blood repeatedly. In his chest, his heart was beating strongly, constantly transmitting power to protect his vitality. No, although your body is very strong, your vitality is still at a low level. It shouldn't be so tenacious. Brady said, There seems to be a strange fluctuation in your heart. Let me see what it is. He quickly moved forward. His palm was like a knife, stabbing towards Zichun's chest, wanting to dig out Zichun's heart. Whoosh! Whoosh! The path sword and the slaughter spirit flew back and attacked Brady. Brady's expression was disdainful. With a casual wave of his hand, he sent the 2 flying. Buzz! 5 golden bells appeared above his head, forming a divine rune pattern. A A terrifying pressure fell, wanting to suppress Brady. Brady looked at the sky and said in surprise, "No wonder you dare to fight me. You have so many treasures on you. Unfortunately, your strength level is too low. Even if you have a supreme treasure, it can't protect you." Brady punched out. When his fist landed in the sky, it shattered the divine rune pattern with a boom. Just as Brady said, his strength level was too low. Even his attack was weak. After destroying the divine rune pattern, Brady came in front of Zichun. His palm was like a knife, piercing through Zichun's skin, grabbing toward his heart. Chapter 4966. Zichun smashed down with the bone club in his hand. His expression was extremely crazed. This was his all-out attack. Whether or not he could kill his opponent would depend on this attack. This was also his greatest trump card. Wong. Brady seemed to have sensed danger. His right hand paused in its action of digging out his heart. He blocked with his left hand, and the light of power circulated in his palm. Shwa. The bone stick fell silently. The moment it came into contact with Brady's arm, it directly disintegrated his arm. Then, the bone stick fell on Brady's head. Bang! A huge tremor. Brady was sent flying, and his screams were interspersed with time. Several hundred feet away, Brady had lost an arm and half of his head. His face looked exceptionally ferocious. At this moment, he was looking at the bone club in Zichun's hand in horror. Zichun lowered his head and glanced at his chest. The wound that Brady had just cut open had completely healed. His heart was beating vigorously, constantly injecting vitality into his body. During this period, it was accompanied by a powerful energy to make up for his consumption. Those who were lucky enough to survive in the distance were all dumbfounded. This Zichun was too fierce. He had beaten the invincible lord into such a state? With such strength, why was he so afraid of Lordly? Subconsciously, they retreated a little because they were worried that Zichun would kill again. What kind of weapon is that? Brady's cheek began to heal. His eyes were fixed on Zichun's weapon. To be able to injure him to such an extent, it was enough to prove that the weapon was extraordinary. For example, the two weapons from before couldn't hurt him at all. The golden bell floated above Zichun's head. The slaughter spirit and Dao sword floated on the left and right. Zichun held the bone club tightly and looked at Brady. "Can we just let it go?" He didn't have the confidence to kill Brady. "You think we can just let it go just because you said so?" Brady's face had completely recovered. He coldly stared at Zichun. At present, Zichun was only at the initial stage of the Heaven's chosen realm, yet he had been beaten to such a state. Once Zichun was allowed to continue growing, wouldn't he be even more powerful? Most importantly, he could see that Zichun's weapons were all extraordinary. Leaving them in his hands would be a complete waste. He would not be able to unleash their full power. Therefore, he must snatch it. Boom. The aura around Brady became increasingly berserk, like the eruption of a vast ocean. The pressure from the void instantly filled the surroundings. The people in the distance retreated once again. There was fear in their eyes. That pressure made them feel suffocated. This was a power that exceeded the limits of this world. Zichun looked at Brady. At this moment, Brady gave him the feeling of Black Lake. In truth, Brady's strength was still at the level of a high-level Heaven's chosen. It was just that within his strength, there was an additional strand of the power of the void. This was the basis of his strength. Although Zichun was only at the initial stage of the Heaven's chosen realm, his strength was no weaker than a high-level Heaven's chosen realm cultivator. The reason he couldn't defeat Brady now was because he didn't have the power of the void. That represented a higher level of law. It was a law that reigned above all other worlds, including the trial realms. In other words, the current Brady was no longer a cultivator, but a supervisor. Therefore, only he could kill others, and others couldn't kill him. Die. Brady brought with him a terrifying strength. It was like a vast ocean closing in, forming a powerful impact. Dang! In the sky, the 5 golden bells rang in unison, forming a divine rune diagram that suppressed Brady. Wong. The power of the void vibrated on Brady's surface, dissolving the divine rune diagram. I want to see how many times you, who are only at the initial stage of the Heaven's chosen realm, can use it. Brady laughed heartily and continued to rush over. He was very confident that he would be able to obtain the bone rod. Zichun raised the bone staff and struck again, causing a loud boom to resound through the void. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, 5 strikes. Zichun's strength was so strong that it exceeded Brady's expectations. However, he was only a little surprised. Zichun obviously couldn't kill him. When his strength was exhausted, it would be time for him to die. At this moment, Zichun's heart was also becoming unstable. The supply of energy couldn't keep up with the rate of consumption. In this way, there would be a time when his energy would be exhausted. You have a lot of secrets. After I kill you, I will study your body properly. Brady looked at Zichun, his eyes shining as if he was looking at a treasure. Zichun struck a dozen more times, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of Brady's mouth. He was slightly injured, but Zichun's face was pale. The consumption of energy was increasing. If this continued, he would fall. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind. Young master, try this. It was Meow Meow. She was holding a black tower with 7 floors in her hand. Zichun recognized it at a glance. It was a tower from the other world that Gu Shan used to seal them. However, what was the use of Meow Meow bringing it over? Young master, try it. It might be useful. Meow Meow tossed the 7-story tower over. Seeing this, Zichun could only reach out and catch it. In this situation, he could only try everything he could. The last bit of energy in his body crazily poured into the black tower. Wong. A terrifying aura erupted from the black tower. The black tower was trembling, showing signs of leaving his hand. Shua. Zichun's soul thought moved, and the 7-story tower flew over. It expanded in the void, and streams of black air swirled around the tower. What is this? Brady raised his head and looked at the black tower. His expression changed. Just as he felt that something was wrong, a strange power suddenly came from the black tower and enveloped him. Shua. Brady entered the black tower. Trapped? Chapter 4967. The black tower was very mysterious. At first, it was just something that Zichun wanted to use as a last resort. He didn't expect that it would immediately trap Brady. A hint of terror appeared in the eyes of those people in the distance, and they planned to escape. Once their lord was trapped, what awaited them would definitely be death. There was no doubt about this at all. Without their lord's suppression, Zichun was a cold-blooded demon. Dong! Suddenly, there was a loud rumble, and a ray of light flew out from the black tower. It was Brady. After he broke free from the black tower, he didn't find trouble with Zichun. Instead, he turned into a ray of light and entered the second realm. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the second realm. This caused Zichun's expression to change. He actually ran away. He hesitated whether to continue chasing. Without the power to inject, the black tower flew back and landed in Zichun's palm. Looking at this black tower, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He originally thought that the thing that Gu Shan left behind was only at the level of a demon and was already useless for the trial realm. He didn't expect that this black tower could even suppress an existence like Brady. This time, there were 2 main reasons for Brady's escape. One was that Zichun had expended a lot of energy, and the second was that he wasn't familiar with the black tower. It was already very shocking that he could control it so quickly. How can this black tower be so powerful? Looking at Meow Meow, who was walking over, Zichun asked in confusion. Meow Meow shook her head and said, I only felt that this tower was extraordinary, so I brought it over for young master to try. Meow Meow's attempt was risking her life. After everyone entered the Holy Talisman realm, she turned back and gave Zichun a chance of survival. Run! Seeing this, the other existences immediately flew toward the second realm. Zichun asked Meow Meow to return to the world and wait while he followed. It was fine if he couldn't kill Brady, but he definitely couldn't let these people live. This time, Zichun learned his lesson and didn't plan to let any of them go. He directly obliterated them and didn't leave their heads behind. Under his all-out pursuit, it was extremely difficult for them to escape. For a time, poof, poof sounds continuously sounded from the void. Some were begging for mercy, while others were cursing the devil. Zichun was expressionless as he harvested one life after another, not giving them a chance to live. Even the opportunity to repent had been taken away. If they hadn't been so overbearing, things wouldn't have gotten to this point. Brady would still be the master of the myriad realms and would not run away in a sorry state. They would also be able to be reborn and enter the myriad realms to live a more exciting life. Unfortunately, they just had to provoke Zichun. With experience this time, Zichun did not leave behind a single head. After hunting down and killing almost everyone in the three realms, he returned once more. During this period of time, the overseers all remained hidden, not appearing at all. After returning to the Saint Spirit realm, Balak appeared. He shook his head and said, "Brady seemed to have disappeared into thin air. I followed him for a while and then lost him. After this incident, he probably won't come again, at least not in the near future." Zichun clenched his fists. His previous injuries had already recovered. After this battle, he felt that he had improved again. After all, this was a true life-and-death battle. In a dangerous situation, one's potential was easier to stimulate. He didn't plan to stay here and return to the Tianwu world. The others already knew that the crisis had been resolved and had returned from the Holy Talisman realm. Black Tower Zichun stayed by his side. He still had to study it carefully. It would be a great help in the future. If it wasn't for its existence, Zichun and the Saint Spirit realm would be completely finished this time. Regardless of whether it was the Tianwu world or the living beings of the Saint Spirit realm, none of them knew that this world had once again brushed past destruction. In the main hall, Zichun recounted the battle, and everyone was shocked. Monk said, "It's a pity that your current realm can no longer feed back to the Tianwu world. Otherwise, we would have improved even faster." The Tianwu world was Zichun's world. In the past, every time Zichun broke through a realm, the world would receive a gift. When the energy of heaven and earth appeared from the void, the world's grade would increase, and everyone would benefit. Zichun said helplessly, "Right now, the Tianwu world is already at the same level as the Saint Spirit realm. There is no possibility of it increasing. Although my own realm is increasing, there is no higher grade energy in the void for the Tianwu world. Right now, the highest level that Zichun's Tianwu world could cultivate was a demon. This was the same as the Saint Spirit realm. As long as the Tianwu world was not separated from the Saint Spirit realm, no matter how many realms Zichun broke through, the Tianwu world, which had grown to its limit, would not receive any feedback. If they wanted the Tianwu world to grow again, they would need the Saint Spirit realm to increase a level in advance and become a place similar to the Trial realm. However, this was obviously impossible. The Trial realm was established temporarily and was not a complete world. It was only a place for all ascenders to pass through. Unless one day, Hugh really connected the myriad realms and then stabilized the Trial realm through the myriad realms rules, turning it into a new immortal realm. At that time, the Saint Spirit realm would be able to increase its level. Similarly, as long as the Saint Spirit realm's level increased, the Tianwu world would also increase in level. Damn it, what on earth is that thing? Brady hid on a ruined planet. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in blood. He looked very miserable. Escaping from the Black Tower, he had almost lost half his life. He did not dare to continue fighting Zichun head-on, so he could only escape first. This time, after returning from the void, although he was arrogant, he still understood the principle of survival first. "Wait until I recover, then I'll kill you. Your things are all mine." Brady hid here to heal his wounds. He coveted all the things on Zichun's body. It was because all of them were very powerful. However, Zichun did not have the power of the void, so he could not unleash their full power. Even so, he was still no match for Zichun. It was clear that those things were extraordinary. "I can sneak attack and kill you in one move, so you won't have the chance to use those things." As he healed, he had even thought of a way to take revenge next time. "Are you sure you still have a chance?" At this moment, a calm voice rang out. "Who?" Brady turned his head and looked into the distance. A figure of light appeared out of thin air. "It's me. How did you find me?" Brady looked at Hugh. "I can even find the coordinates of the myriad realms hidden in the void. How can a mere person not find me?" Hugh smiled faintly. "Watch your attitude when you speak. A hint of displeasure appeared in Brady's eyes. Don't think that I can't do anything to you now that I'm injured. Let me tell you, if I want to kill you monitors, I can do so at any time. Is that so? Hugh's figure suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Brady and reached out to grab his neck. You want to die? Brady flew into a rage and immediately mobilized the power of the void in his body. Do you think you can ruin my plans? I wanted to let you be proud for a while, but who knew that you couldn't even defeat a mere initial stage Heaven's Chosen? Then what use do I have for you? A hint of killing intent appeared in Hugh's eyes. A powerful aura suddenly surged around him, suppressing Brady's power. You also have the power of the void? Chapter 49:68. You're really stupid. You want to trample everyone under your feet the moment you arrive. Why don't you use your brain and think about why I want to unify the 10,000 realms? Just to pave the way for an idiot like you? Or to pave the way for other idiots who might obtain the power of the void? Seuss sneered. Am I really that stupid? He had forcefully destroyed Brady's soul. If he could be reborn, Brady would definitely not have provoked Zichen. Then he would not have fallen to his current state. As for Seuss, when he was at his peak, he would not have dared to kill him. Or rather, he would not have been able to kill him. Brady was dead, and Seuss obtained a power from the void. It was completely different from the power of the immortal spell realm that the Monitor obtained. This power was even more frenzied and filled with brutality. An unexpected surprise. A cold smile appeared on Seuss's face. He swallowed the power of the void in one gulp. 3 powers coiled around his body. 1 was the power of the immortal spell realm, and 2 were the power of the void. Soon, the 2 powers of the void were hidden, leaving only the power of the immortal spell realm. He turned to look at the entrance to the second realm. Zichen's things are really good. It's a waste to leave them with him. However, it's best not to act rashly. I'll let him keep them for now. Seuss waved his hand lightly, and Brady's body turned into fine powder and disappeared. The next moment, his body also disappeared. For him, the most important thing now was to open up the 10,000 realms. Brady's matter quickly spread throughout the various realms. Everyone knew of his existence, and at the same time, they also knew of the power that surpassed the Heaven's Chosen realm, the power of the void. For a moment, many people were tempted. Brady used to be from the immortal Slaughter City. He was a character from many years ago. Because he was too bored in the trial realm, he entered the depths of the void. Everyone thought that he would disappear like those sages before him. They never thought that he would actually come back alive and possess invincible strength. If Zichen had not used a supreme treasure, no one in these realms would be able to suppress him. Many people who knew Brady had come to the second realm to search for him. They wanted to ask where the power of the void came from, and all of them wanted to enter the void. Zichen went back and continued to cultivate. The last battle was purely due to luck. He tried to refine the Black Tower, but did not succeed. It was like a bone stick that couldn't be refined. As for the 7th floor, Zichen had yet to reach it. He didn't know if it was because it hadn't recognized him as its owner, but he couldn't enter the 7th floor. He didn't know what was there. Next, he kept the Black Tower by his side and studied it as he cultivated. Several months passed quickly, but there was still no news of Brady. Tyrant and the others broke through one after another, becoming demon-like existences. Originally, as long as they reached this level, they could enter the void to explore. However, there were many unexpected events in the world now, so everyone obediently stayed in the Tianwu world and waited for everything to settle down. Many people were looking for Brady, but there was no news. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. Calculating the time, he should be able to recover from his previous injuries in a few months. Why didn't he come back for revenge? Zichen had been waiting for Brady, waiting for the second battle between the two sides. Unfortunately, he still hadn't seen the other party. White Lake and Black Lake quietly left the Saint Spirit realm and went to the second realm to search. After searching for a few months, they still found nothing. Seuss had already opened the 15th world, and his speed was extremely fast. Moreover, as the various worlds were opened, and as the passageways stabilized, Zichen found that the world's laws were beginning to fade, or rather, assimilate. For example, the second realm was once obviously a low-level world, and there wasn't even a single demon. However, as the passageways were opened, the laws of the Saint Spirit realm began to be poured into that world, and this originally low-level world actually showed signs of leveling up. Previously, the second realm was almost destroyed by those revived existences. Now, it had completely recovered, and its level was even higher, with people continuously breaking through to become holy venerables. Ziqian had been staying in the Tianwu world. This was what the two old men found when they went to look for Brady, and when they returned, they told Ziqian. Thus, Ziqian guessed that after the worlds were connected in the future, they would have unified power and laws. This didn't have any benefits for the Saint Spirit realm at present, because Ziqian had already made this world the highest level. Now, the Saint Spirit realm had always been the party that paid the price. If they wanted the Saint Spirit realm to level up, they had to set their sights on the trial realm. However, no one had this ability at present. Another 2 years passed, and the number of demons in the Tianwu world increased. Ziqian, who still hadn't seen Brady, decided to let everyone explore the trial realm. After all, only by going there and obtaining many fragments could they level up again. The current Saint Spirit realm was lacking in the trial realm and the heaven's chosen realm. If a few existences of this level appeared, Ziqian could be more at ease. After receiving Ziqian's weapons as a gift, everyone left one after another, leaving only Ziqian to continue guarding here. He carried the bone staff and the black tower with him in case a sudden battle broke out. In the blink of an eye, 10 years passed. Those who were looking for Brady all gave up, and some went directly to the void in search of new power. The two old men, black and white, returned from the fourth realm and directly came to the Tianwu world. Seeing their disappointed expressions, Ziqian said in surprise, "Still no news?" It had been 10 years, and there was no news of Brady at all. Ziqian was very sure that when Brady escaped, he was only injured, and his life wasn't in danger. Then where did he go? At most, he escaped to the fourth realm. But the two of them searched for a long time and didn't find anything. Ziqian looked at the disappointed two and suddenly said, "Is it possible that he's dead?" Dead? The two old men were startled, somewhat in disbelief. Blacklake said, "Even if he's injured, who can kill him?" Ziqian asked, "None of you can? Our power can only protect ourselves, but it's very difficult to kill someone," Blacklake said. "This is also the rule restriction of the immortal spell realm. Otherwise, after descending to the lower realm, wouldn't we all become rulers?" When Blacklake sparred with Ziqian, injuring Ziqian was already extremely powerful. If he wanted to obliterate Ziqian, that was impossible. The rule from the immortal spell realm didn't allow such a thing to happen. For 10 years, Brady didn't appear, and Ziqian had reason to suspect that he was already dead. But looking at the myriad realms, who could kill him? At his peak, no one could. Then who could kill the heavily injured Brady? Thinking about it carefully, only an existence who also had the power of the void could do this. But why would such an existence hide after killing Brady? Why not come out and become the ruler of the myriad realms? Or rather, why hide? A mighty expert still had to hide and be afraid of the smallest thing. Did he have concerns? Suddenly, Ziqian's expression changed as he thought of a possibility. A possibility that he couldn't figure out. Chapter 49-69. When Theseus wanted to connect the myriad worlds, Ziqian had suspected his motives. After all, there were many monitors, and everyone's combat strength was similar. They were on equal footing. Even if the myriad worlds were connected, there would still be 10,000 people who had the final say in the future. What was the point of Zeus working so hard? Selfless dedication? Ziqian did not believe it at all. However, Brady's appearance made Ziqian realize that there was a void power that was not weaker than the monitors. This made him see a second possibility. Brady had disappeared for 10 years and had not appeared. At his peak, Ziqian did not believe that he would die silently. The only possibility was that the other party had been killed 10 years ago when he escaped with serious injuries, and that person was most likely Zeus. Only after he killed Brady would he choose to continue enduring silently. He could not let the other monitors know that he had a stronger ability than everyone else. Otherwise, the other monitors might not cooperate and might even gang up on him. Zichun told the two old men his guess. Both of them were shocked. It was obvious that this possibility existed. The two of them had even agreed that this was the truth. Otherwise, why would Brady not appear for 10 years? Seniors, don't make it public. Just pretend that you don't know everything. Zichun said, it will take a long time to connect the myriad worlds. It's better not to break this rare moment of peace. What Zichun needed the most now was time. If those guys had not been so aggressive back then, Zichun would have retreated if he could. He was not willing to confront Brady head-on. It was the same now. He was not strong enough and was not willing to confront Theseus head-on. The two old men nodded, but their expressions were solemn. If this is the truth, I plan to go to the trial realm again. Zichun looked at the two old men. I want to find more void fragments and try to break through quickly. Balak glanced at Blacklake. The latter was hesitant. Balak said, at this point, we should be flexible. Sometimes, being too rigid may not be a good thing. Zichun did not understand what the two were talking about. Blacklake nodded. All right, it's time for a change. Who knows what this place will become in the future? Then, he looked at Zichun and said, you can go. As for your friends, we will lower the exchange points for some items so that they can grow faster. This was originally against the rules, but the two of them chose to make an exception. After all, the situation in the world had changed. They had to let the Saint Spirit world have the power to protect itself as soon as possible. The two of them had not been in vain, as they had watched the Saint Spirit world grow step by step from the previous turbulent era to the present day. Zichun hurriedly thanked him. Now, he didn't have to worry about Su Mingyao and the others. On the same day, Zichun entered the trial grounds. He didn't greet the others and went straight to Peace City. He then entered the void to search for broken worlds and law fragments. In truth, there were already quite a few experts stationed in the Saint Spirit world. A large portion of the people who had come from Peace City had stayed behind. However, they were not local existences. Once there was danger, they would definitely leave. Blackstone entered the Sea of Consciousness and could not guide Zichun. Therefore, Zichun relied on his own luck to search for broken worlds in the void. A few days later, he found a palm-sized fragmented world and barged into it. There was no longer any life in this world. The entire world was in ruins. After searching for a while, Zichun walked out of this world. Boom! This broken world shattered, leaving behind nearly 100 fragments. Zichun put them away. For the next half a year, Zichun had been searching in the void. He did not dare to go far, let alone enter the depths of the void. This was because if his guess was wrong and Brady quietly came back, it would be a huge disaster for the Saint Spirit world and the Tianwu world. Another half a year passed, and Zichun returned to Peace City. There were only a few people in the city. They traveled back and forth between the city and the void. Like Zichun, they still had a goal to pursue in cultivation. Most of the others had left. During this time, there were also many people who had gone to the depths of the void. Obviously, they all wanted to become the second Brady. Zichun left Peace City and returned to the trial realm. He met with Blacklake, who told him that everything was normal. Brady still had not appeared. Zichun was relieved. Then, he went to look for Tyrant, the Devil Ape, and the others. Because of the weapons he had given them, they were like fish in water after coming here. Furthermore, Blacklake had deliberately gone easy on them. Not only had their realms increased by a lot, but they also had more equipment on them. As for Meow Meow and the others, because they had stayed here for a long time, they had advanced to the trial realm. Zichun had obtained a lot of fragments previously, and their grades were very suitable for the trial realm. Therefore, they did not need to explore the void for the time being. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. Brady had been completely forgotten. Only Zichun would occasionally talk about him. Now, he was certain that Theseus had killed Brady. Theseus possessed extraordinary strength. In the past 20 years, Theseus had done his best to search for the world coordinates. He had already opened up passages to hundreds of worlds. These worlds were currently numbered. Right now, he had only opened up the passages and maintained the original state. He had not really managed them yet. Time passed. Zichun had been cultivating in the void. In his sea of consciousness, his soul was constantly absorbing the power of the black stone, causing it to become even stronger. His physical body was also growing because he had obtained the power of the immortal golden body. After concluding that Brady was dead, he did not go back. He moved further and further away from Peace City. However, he still did not dare to enter the depths of the void. During this time, he had seen many worlds destroyed. Some of them were indeed high-level worlds. However, he had never seen a weapon comparable to the Bone Staff, Golden Bell, Dao Sword, and the like. After 100 years, Zichen's soul finally reached a critical point. After breaking through with the help of the Saint Spirit Realm's will, he broke through again. The Heaven's Chosen Realm, Buzz. In Zichen's Sea of Consciousness, the black stone trembled. Waves of soul power continuously rippled out and poured into his soul. This soul power was extremely pure and strengthened Zichen's soul. At the same time, Zichen's heart was beating violently, transmitting the power from his heart to his body. At the same time that his cultivation had broken through, Zichen's physical body would also welcome a new breakthrough. After reaching the middle realm, Zichen planned to go back and take a look. This time, as soon as he returned to the trial realm, Blacklake appeared. He told Zichen that Theseus had returned and wanted to see him. "See me?" Zichen was slightly stunned. He had a bad feeling in his heart. He immediately returned to the Saint Spirit Realm. However, before he could reach the Tianwu world, a space suddenly opened. Theseus walked out. Chapter 4970. Theseus asked Zichen this question as soon as he arrived. Zichen asked in return, "Why?" Zeus smiled faintly. "Why don't you guess?" Zichen shook his head. Zeus said, "I've always felt that you're like a hero. You're upright and plain-spoken. You're a very upright person." Zichen looked at him in confusion. "I didn't expect you to think of me as such a great person, but I didn't expect you to say things that don't mean," Zeus said. Zeus said, "But that's good too. It'll be easier to survive in this chaotic world with more life and life." "So, you clearly know why Brady didn't appear, but you pretended not to know." Seeing Zeus' faint smile, Zichen's expression didn't change much, but his mood became very bad. "You don't have to deny it to me. Someone who can open the infinite realms must be very smart." Zeus looked at Zichen. "If you didn't guess why Brady didn't appear, you wouldn't have gone to the trial realm to cultivate at ease." "Oh, did you break through again? Amazing, really amazing." Now that he had said this, it was obviously not as simple as just probing. But this also confirmed Zichen's guess. But now, Zeus didn't intend to hide it anymore. Zichen said, "So, you're here to fight with me? Fight? Are you kidding?" Zeus smiled and said, "The infinite realms need to be opened, and the laws need to be remade. I still have many things to do. How can I have the energy to fight with you?" "Then why are you looking for me?" Zichen looked at Zeus. "I have a few small requests that I need you to agree to." "What requests?" Zeus said, "Give me the 5 great golden bells, the path sword, and the black tower, and then go into the depths of the void." "What did you say?" Zichen looked at Zeus as if he was looking at an idiot. "I know what you care about, so I can promise that I'll protect your Saint Spirit realm from now on," Zeus said. Hughes said, "But the prerequisite is that you have to give me those things, and then stay in the depths of the void." Looking at Zichen's ugly expression, Zeus said, "This is the only path I've left for you. If you refuse, then we'll just have to fight. But I'm not as stupid as Brady. I won't fight you to the death. I'll think of a way to keep you busy. Then, I'll get others to attack the Saint Spirit realm. In the end, it is very likely that you will still be alive, but the people you care about will all die. The Saint Spirit realm might not even exist anymore." The smile on Zeus's face didn't diminish. His tone was very calm, but every word he said hit the nail on the head. Zichen did not think that the other party was joking. Compared to Brady, he was much more sinister. One had to be very careful when dealing with such people. Therefore, Zichen did not respond immediately. He chose to remain silent. "Actually, you don't even have the right to choose," Zeus said. "If you were that idiot Brady, I definitely wouldn't use this method. But you're not him. You have concerns. You care about the people of the world. You have people you care about, unlike that brute who only cares about himself." Zeus pointed around. So, I have too many ways to deal with you. But you can only silently endure. You can only choose passively. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences of angering me. The other party had already thought of a path for him. I can't believe you. Zichun said, if I leave, you'll still destroy this place. There's no point in me destroying this place. Seuss smiled. The one who's a real threat to me is you. As long as you leave, I'll be number one here. There are countless opportunities in the void. After obtaining the power of the void, I'll still return, Zichun said. At that time, you'll be in even more danger. The void is very big. Many people have been there, but how many have returned? Seuss said. So, the probability of you returning is very small. Of course, the probability is small, but why am I not worried? Seuss answered his own question. Because I read Brady's memories. It's almost impossible for him to return from the depths of the void. And he's just an exception. This kind of exception won't happen a second time. Zichun understood. This way, it would be the safest. He could avoid a major battle and allow others to take advantage of the situation. He could also easily eliminate a powerful opponent. Seuss gave him a choice, and only one choice. Zichun shook his head. No, I can leave, but I won't give you my things. Because there are unknown dangers in the void. I have to protect myself. Seuss smiled. You don't have the right to bargain with me. Right now, you can only do what I say. You can only listen, not talk. Zichun shook his head again. The things are mine. Of course, I have the right to choose. I can't leave anything behind. I have to stay by your side. Suggestion overruled. Fine. I'll leave the 5 great golden bells and the Tao sword to you. But I have to take the Black Pagoda. This is my bottom line. If you don't agree, then we can only fight. Zichun said in a low voice, perhaps everything is as you say. But if the end of the world is destruction, then I don't mind fighting. You're right. I do care about the lives of many people. But if I can't protect them by sacrificing myself, then I choose to fight to the death. This way, the world will be gone. But I may survive and wait for an opportunity to take revenge. Seeing the decisiveness in Zichun's eyes, Seuss nodded. That's fine. I need the 2 seniors to testify. Zichun said, if you don't keep your promise, no one will know. The 2 old men, black and white, soon appeared. The 2 of them did not know that the 2 sides had reached an agreement. After Zichun explained, their expressions changed. I'll have to trouble the 2 seniors to testify for me. Zichun cupped his fists at the 2 of them. Okay. Blacklake nodded and said, when necessary, we will tell the world about what you've done today. In front of the 2, Zichun took out the Tao sword and the 5 great golden bells and removed the ownership. These were all things that came from the Tao of divine glyphs. They were absolute treasures. Seuss put them away, then smiled. Okay, you can leave at any time. Remember, don't stay here for too long. Seeing Seuss leave, a sullen expression appeared on Blacklake's face. Obviously, Zichun was driven away by threats. Zichun returned to the Tianwu world and went to find Jolene to tell her some things. He did not say that he would be leaving forever. He just said that this time, he might be gone for a long time. After that, Zichun returned to the trial realm. Through Blacklake's means, he found Su Mingyao and the others and told them that he would be going to the void for a period of time. Then, after spending some time with the girls in the trial realm, he stepped into the void. Chapter 4971. Zichun went into the depths of the void alone. The void was boundless, and he was the only one there. Occasionally, there would be a flash of light. Sometimes it would be a remnant fragment of the laws, and sometimes it would be a broken world. The golden bell was gone. The Tao sword was also left behind. Fortunately, the massacre spirit was still there, and so was the bone staff. He also had the Black Tower with him. If he continued to stay in the Tianwu world, it was very likely that Seuss would succeed. Whoosh! A beam of light appeared in his field of vision. Zichun flew towards that beam of light. He entered the light and saw a patch of yellow sand. This was a broken world. There should have been a lot of vegetation, but as the world shattered, the vitality began to fade. The vegetation disappeared, and the sky was filled with yellow sand. In fact, Zichen often came across such places. Most of the time, it was dead silent, and there would not be any living things. His eyes flashed. It was the immortal spiritual eye. As expected, he did not find anything. Most of the time, there was nothing of value here. After Zichen left, the world shattered with a bang, leaving behind the void fragments, which Zichen put away. The environment of the void was unchanging. There was no concept of time here. At first, Zichen could vaguely count the time, but gradually, he ignored it. He had been out for 5 years? 10 years? He remembered that the exact number was 3 years. He was not sure if he had reached the depths of the void. He thought that he probably had not, because he did not see anyone else. Many people had entered the void. Based on their cultivation level, the chances of death were not high. They should be exploring everywhere, and perhaps one day they would meet. But as Zichen went deeper, he did not discover anything. Roar! A giant beast appeared in Zichen's field of vision. It should have escaped from a fragment world. It was not easy to escape the cage of the laws. Zichen glanced at them from afar and turned around. At this moment, he saw the giant beast rushing towards him. From afar, it looked like a moving warship. Seeing the giant beast approaching, Zichen's expression changed slightly. Roar! The giant beast roared and opened its mouth, its sharp teeth gleaming with a cold light. Zichen had already chosen to dodge, but he hadn't expected the other party to take the initiative to attack. He extended his hand and slashed forward. A straight beam of golden light shot forward, passing through the giant beast's huge body. In the next moment, a river of blood appeared in the void. The huge body of the giant beast had been split into two. Zichen continued to fly forward, and the two halves of the giant beast's corpse fell into the void. His power was much stronger than when he left because he had refined too many fragments. Zichen entered a world where he saw a large number of buildings. After who knew how many years, the buildings were still intact, but there was no one inside. He used his immortal spiritual eye but didn't discover any restrictions in this place. As he continued to go deeper, the value of the world he discovered became smaller and smaller. As he descended, Zichen looked at these ancient buildings. This should have been a sect in the past. There was a meeting room and a place for cultivation. However, after walking around, he didn't find anything. After leaving this world, he followed his usual routine of forcefully shattering this place. The fragments he obtained were not of a low grade. These were useful for his cultivation. The road ahead was long and endless. Zichen had long forgotten the time and even the direction. Now, he seemed to understand why those who entered the void didn't return. It was very likely that they were lost. Looking around, he was in a daze. Zichen stretched out his hand and slashed forward. A beam of light flashed and disappeared. The void was still the same. It wasn't broken. Zichen's expression changed. Previously, when he was outside the trial realm, he could cut open the void, but he couldn't do so here. He was really lost. Zichen turned around and looked behind. If he kept going forward like this, he should be able to go back, right? Attack after attack appeared, and light after light lit up in the void. After a while, all the light disappeared. Zichen stood in the void and was in a daze for a long time. About 2 hours later, Zichen turned around and continued to walk towards the depths of what he thought was the place. Now that he was lost, he might not be able to go back. However, he still hadn't found the so-called void power. Next, Zichen continued to move forward, exploring the worlds he encountered, not letting go of any place. The void power might be in these worlds. However, after walking for a long time, he still didn't see those who had left. If it wasn't for the number of fragments he encountered increasing, he would even suspect that he had been walking on the same spot. Boom! A world shattered in front of Zichen's eyes. Hundreds of fragments danced in front of Zichen. Swish! Zichen waved his sleeves and collected these fragments. This was the most common scene in the void. After walking for a long time, Zichen had lost count of how many fragments he had obtained. His combat strength had increased by a lot. Unfortunately, there were no enemies, so naturally, no one came to verify it. Most of the worlds he discovered were empty. There wasn't even a beast. He hadn't seen a living creature in a long time. Boom! Boom, boom. World after world shattered. Zichun continued forward. He, who had lost his sense of direction, guessed that one day he might appear in the trial world again. Therefore, he would occasionally launch an attack, trying to see if he could break the void. However, he didn't succeed even once. Just like that, after completely losing his sense of direction and time, Zichun's vision finally lit up. Countless bright lights. It was as if there were countless fragments of worlds gathered together. It was so bright that it was somewhat dazzling. Zichun walked forward. The light made him a little dazed, and his body seemed to be out of control. Is this an illusion? Zichun's expression changed. He tried to clear his mind, and at the same time, activated his immortal spiritual eye. However, under the immortal spiritual eye, the front was still bright, proving that it wasn't an illusion. However, why was his body not under his control? Was he poisoned? However, at his level, he was already immune to all poisons. As he continued to walk forward, Zichun found that his body seemed to be tilting. His legs didn't seem to be his own. He raised his hand and looked. It was clearly in front of him, but it gave him a feeling that it was far away. Zichun was stunned. He tried hard to figure out what was going on. He found that his thoughts had become sluggish. What is going on? Zichun wanted to shout, but found that he couldn't speak. It was as if he had lost control of his thoughts. He couldn't make a sound. His limbs didn't seem to be his own. Even his thoughts were incomparably sluggish. Zichun didn't know what was going on. He was getting closer and closer to the light. Finally, he entered. He saw something rushing towards him. He immediately waved his hand in front of him. He wanted to activate his power, but he didn't succeed. This is a disorder of the laws. My laws are in disorder. Chapter 4972. A thought flashed through Zichun's mind. He knew what was going on with his current state, but soon, he was lost again and completely lost control of his body. This was an indescribable, strange feeling. He clearly saw something, but it couldn't be clearly transmitted to his mind, let alone feedback. It seemed that there was a problem with the connection of his body. For example, a simple action of raising his hand became extremely difficult. His body couldn't achieve the original coordination at all. Zichun tried to move forward, but he felt his body tilting. In the end, he fell to the ground completely. His body was wriggling like a snake. In fact, this was all an illusion. He didn't move at all. Light flickered all around. This place was like the Milky Way beyond the ninth heaven. Countless streams of light were rotating, washing Zichun's body over and over again. Zichun was still trying to struggle and walk out of here, but it was useless. His body moved with the Milky Way and was baptized by the light. His body no longer listened to him. In his sea of consciousness, the black stone was still releasing power, strengthening Zichun's soul bit by bit, but the speed was a little slower. Finally, in the end, Zichun completely lost the strength to struggle, even if it was only a struggle of consciousness. He was still alive, but he was like a living dead, floating in the Milky Way. Countless fragments circulated in the Milky Way, like fragments left behind by a broken world. It was extremely dazzling. It was a pity that no one could appreciate this dazzling scene. As long as one got close to this place, they would be lost. After being washed over and over again, Zichun's body had an additional rule power. This power was like a rope, wrapping around his body. Following that, the second rule force fell and pressed down heavily on his body. Time had long lost its meaning here. 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years had passed. The rule power on Zichun's body grew more and more. From afar, it looked like ropes. It was also like seaweed at the bottom of the sea, tying up Zichun layer by layer. Zichun's heart had long stopped beating. Because of the compression of countless rule power, this heart had lost its vitality. In his sea of consciousness, the magical black stone was also silent and no longer released soul power. Zichun's soul power had also fallen into a deep slumber. Even more laws descended, wrapping around Zichun in layers, to the extent that his original appearance could no longer be seen. He continued to float along with the Milky Way. The Milky Way seemed to have no end, but it also seemed to be constantly circulating. After an unknown amount of time, His revolving body collided with another law that resembled a small mountain. Pong! The laws around him turned into motes of light and disappeared. Zichen's body appeared, and another person appeared in front of him. However, both of them were in a state of suspended animation, unable to sense anything in the outside world. However, due to this collision, the laws on Zichen's body disappeared. His heart began to beat again, albeit very slowly. Without any pressure, Blackstone continued to release his soul power, slowly strengthening Zichen's soul. At the same time, Zichen's body was still receiving the scouring of countless rule force. These rules could have come from different worlds. They were all different and varied. Some of the rule power would directly penetrate his body and not cause him any harm. There might even be a portion of the power left for his body to absorb. There was also a portion of the rule power that remained intact and fell on Zichen's body like seaweed. Just like that, more and more of them appeared, and Zichen's body was once again completely enveloped. His heart stopped beating, and Blackstone was also suppressed. There was no concept of time here. Zichen continued to rotate along with the Milky Way. After an unknown amount of time, the second collision came. Bang! Those rule power disappeared, and Zichen's body appeared for the second time. His heart and Blackstone gradually recovered. This repeated hundreds of times. Zichen's body had clearly changed. It became more transparent, as if it was about to merge with the Milky Way. Until one day, a large net fell from the sky. Just as it stretched out, Zichen came here and was wrapped up by the net. After that, the net began to shrink, and then dragged him upwards. Finally, after drifting for countless years, Zichen left the Milky Way for the first time. An old blind man with empty eyes scooped up Zichen and felt the heavy net. He could not help but smile. Another harvest. He carried the net on his back and went down 999 steps. After walking down the steps, his body suddenly lit up. It was a power. If Zichen woke up at this moment, he would definitely cry out in surprise. Because this power was the void power that he had been searching for. With the void power protecting his body, the old man carried the net and walked into the distance. This net was completely made up of invisible rule power. It shone brightly and was extremely sturdy. At the same time, Zichen, who was scooped out, was also enveloped by the rule power. It looked like he was lying in a piece of ice crystal. The old blind man came outside a wooden house and casually threw the net and Zichen to the side. Although he could not see, he skillfully untied the net and patted the rule power on the surface of Zichen's body. The old blind man nodded in satisfaction. The quality is not bad. Perhaps I can sell it for a good price. He put the net aside and turned to walk back into the house. Zichen was still lying there. At this moment, Zichen had left the Milky Way and was no longer suppressed by the countless rule power. His heart and black stone had awakened once again. They had been suppressed countless times, but they seemed to have an undying will. As long as the suppression was relaxed, they would slowly awaken. It was the same this time. The heart beat and injected power into Zichen's body. At this moment, Zichen's body was completely transparent. One could see a power circulating in his body. With the circulation of these powers, his body gradually began to feel more solid. The rule power that filled the surroundings seemed to be transforming into a physical body bit by bit. In his soul, the energy released by the black stone also increased. Zichen's soul, which had almost disappeared due to the erosion of the rule power, was finally replenished. As his soul gradually strengthened, the rule power on the surface of his body was also rapidly absorbed by his body. His body became clearer and finally turned into Zichen's original appearance. However, he still fell into a deep sleep and did not wake up. A voice came from the wooden house. It was unknown what the old man was looking for. Buzz. On the surface of Zichen's body, light circulated again. However, this time, it was no longer the rule power but a golden light. The golden light became brighter and brighter, and Zichen's soul became stronger and stronger. Buzz. Finally, the golden light on the surface of his body suddenly turned into a pure power. This power automatically protected his body. At this moment, Zichen opened his eyes. Chapter 49, 73. Sorry, The plot needs to be sorted out, so there is no update today. Thunder Marshal has no updates today. It is in your hands. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4974. Zichen opened his eyes and gradually regained consciousness. At the same time, some images appeared in his mind, but he wasn't sure if they were real or just a dream. He sat up and looked around. The first thing that attracted his attention was the fishing net. It was completely made of laws and was extremely extraordinary. He thought that it was some kind of offensive Dharma treasure. His gaze continued to move and saw a wooden house not far away. At this moment, Old Blind walked out of the room. When he saw Zichen, he was immediately stunned. Zichen looked at Old Blind and was also stunned. Old Blind was surrounded by light, giving him the feeling of Brady. That was because the light belonged to the power of the void. Senior, what is this place? Zichen asked. You actually woke up on your own, Old Blind said, seemingly very surprised. Senior, did you save me? Zichen cupped his fists and said, I'm Zichen. Thank you for saving me, Senior. Old Blind shook his head and said, It's just fate. He held a wooden stick in his hand and placed it to the side. Since you're already awake, there's no need to go to the land of soul refinement anymore. Take this and follow me. A light appeared in Old Blind's hand, and he handed it to Zichen. What's this? Zichen received the light and sensed that it was a very strange power of laws. This is the power of extremity. Refine it when you're weak. Old Blind walked to the side, picked up the fishing net and walked forward. In this land of extremity, you have to resonate with heaven and earth at any time. Therefore, the power of extremity will always be consumed. The power of extremity? Zichen looked at him. This was a power he had never heard of. It's this power, Old Blind said. Isn't this the power of the void? The power of the void. Old Blind sighed. It's the power of the void. I haven't heard of such a thing in a long time. However, it's called the power of extremity here. Without it, you won't be able to survive. The Old Blind man turned to look at Zichen. You have one too. Zichen lowered his head to take a look. Only then did he realize that his entire body was shining with golden light. At first, he thought that it was a mortal power, but now it seemed that it was not the case. Around his body, there was an additional strange energy, which was the so-called void energy. I actually have the power of the void? Zichen was stunned. He couldn't believe it. How is this possible? How did I obtain the void energy? No one can give an accurate answer to this. Perhaps you accidentally obtained it from the extreme Milky Way, or perhaps you comprehended it on your own. Old Blind walked in front. There are many theories regarding the first force, but none of them are uniform. But there is one thing. All those who awaken in the land of extremity possess the power of extremity. What about those who can't wake up? Zichen asked again. It will be assimilated by the laws and turned into extreme energy, allowing those who possess extreme energy to survive. Zichen was a little confused, but he didn't ask any more questions. He needed to feel his own strength first. His realm was still there, but there was only one force left, which was the extreme energy. Soon, they came to a stone staircase that led upwards. Old Blind turned back and said, When you reach the top, don't look down. Just close your eyes and wait for me. Zichen nodded. He followed Old Blind up the stairs. After reaching the first stone step, the light around him disappeared. Zichen was a little surprised. Old Blind said, If there comes a day when you run out of extreme energy, you can come here and hide. There is no need to consume energy here. After you go up, you must not look down, or you will get lost in the extreme Milky Way. A scene suddenly appeared in Zichen's mind. While he was in a trance, he seemed to have entered a dazzling place. Then, his memory became blurry and he was completely lost there. There were a total of 999 steps on the stone staircase. Zichen finished counting them out of boredom. There was a platform at the top. Old Blind held up the nomological net and threw it far ahead. The net fell down. Zichen subconsciously lowered his head and saw a dazzling light. Then, his consciousness became blurry. His body was no longer under his control, and the energy in his body became chaotic. The old blind man seemed to have guessed this would happen. He calmly grabbed him and had him lie down beside him. Not long after, Zichen woke up and regained consciousness. He sat up and looked around. Old Blind was still sitting beside him. Phew! Zichen exhaled and felt that it was a close call. You recovered faster than I imagined. Old Blind's voice sounded. What was that just now? Zichen asked. The extreme Milky Way, said Old Blind. That's the extreme Milky Way? Zichen's expression changed as he was alarmed. Just a moment ago, he seemed to have seen countless laws. They intertwined in a chaotic manner, causing his soul to instantly get lost. That's right. I fished you out from here. Old Blind said. Fortunately, you woke up, but unfortunately, you woke up too quickly. I didn't get my reward. What reward? Zichen asked. I sent you to the extreme whirlpool in the land of soul refinement. I was able to obtain some extreme energy. Old Blind's tone had always been calm. However, when he mentioned the extreme energy, there were some ripples in his voice, as if he felt that it was a pity. It's this kind of power. Is it very precious? Zichen took out that power. In this place, having it means having a life. Do you think it's precious or not? Old Blind sat at the side and lowered his head to look down. No one can see the extreme Milky Way clearly. Just a glance will cause one to get lost. Therefore, in order to survive here, I dug out my own eyes. That way, I wouldn't need to use my eyes to see. So that's how it is. Zichen was moved. Then, he put away the extreme energy. You saved me. I will repay you, Old Blind said. What you need to think about now is how to survive, not repay me. Or, if you really have no way out, you can do what I did. Dig out your eyes and become a corpse fisherman. Then why don't you go back? Zichen asked. Back to the trial realm? Trial realm? Old Blind was slightly stunned. Is that where you came from? Zichen asked again. Old Blind laughed. There's only the way to come here, but there's no way back. Impossible. I saw someone go back with my own eyes. When he said this, Zichen thought of what Seuss had said. He had searched Brady's memories, and it was said that it was very difficult for someone to return from the depths of the void. That was why Brady had asked him to come. Oh, someone succeeded? Old Blind was not surprised. That person should have left from the extreme Milky Way. It seems like his luck is not bad. How does one leave the extreme Milky Way? Jump in. Perhaps you can leave. Zichen was dumbfounded. One would get lost just by looking at it. How could one survive if one jumped in? Chapter 4975. The following plot is not smooth, so there are no updates today. The recent updates will be unstable, so I will try to straighten out the outline before the end of the month. Thunder Marshal has no updates today. It is currently in your hands. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4976. Seeing the old man reel in the net, Zichen asked, Did you get anything? I don't know. Zichen subconsciously stood up and wanted to look down, but he quickly reacted and sat back down. He could only wait for the old man to slowly reel in the net and see if he could salvage anything. But this time, the net was empty. There was nothing. The old man's expression was calm as he continued to cast the net. It was said that this kind of thing often happened. Zichen sat behind the old man, thinking about what the old man said earlier. Can I really go back by jumping in here? Maybe. It was rare for someone to talk. So the old man said, No one knows where the Milky Way leads to. Since you saw someone with extremity power from outside, perhaps you left through the Milky Way. Is this the only way? I don't know if this counts as a way, but there's no other way. The two of them fell silent for a long time. If this place doesn't consume power, why did you go back to the wooden house? Zichen broke the silence. Wouldn't it be better to stay here? The old man said without turning his head, Not consuming power here is only relative. In fact, power will disappear after a long time. If you continue to stay here, you'll only be waiting for death. What happens if you die? Zichen asked. You'll disappear. The two of them chatted like this. During this time, the old man reeled in the net several times, but it was to no avail. When he reeled in the seventh net, he finally found something. It was a large piece of crystal that emitted intense light. It looked like a large piece of law fragment. Is there someone in here? Zichun looked at the crystal. I'm not sure. The old man carried the net down. Zichun followed behind. After walking down the stairs, the old man's body lit up. Zichun also used extremity power. Extremity power was the power of the void. The current Zichun already had power comparable to Brady's, but he could no longer return. He hadn't seen Brady's memories, so he didn't know how he could return. But since Theseus dared to let him come here, he was obviously confident that he couldn't return. Returning to the wooden house, the old blind man took a wooden stick, put it on the net, and left with the crystal. Zichun followed behind him. We're going to the soul refining grounds. We can exchange for extreme energy there. As Old Blind walked, he talked about the situation in the land of soul refinement. There wasn't much of a fluctuation in his emotions. The heavens and earth here were extremely oppressive. It was as if there was a great gravitational force on his body, causing Zichun to lose the ability to fly. Moreover, as he moved forward, his extreme force began to be consumed. Although the consumption was not great, the old man had said that once his extreme force was exhausted, it would mean death. That was still a terrifying thing. Therefore, after walking for an hour, Zichun asked, "How long will it take?" "For hours," the old man said. Zichun's expression changed when he heard this. "Doesn't that mean that going back and forth will consume a strand of energy?" "Save it. Half of it is enough." The old man's answer left Zichun speechless. This was equivalent to consuming his own life force. How could he save it? Fortunately, the old man had given him a strand of extreme force. Right now, he could clearly feel how precious this strand of energy was. The old man didn't know how many times he had walked this path, so after 4 hours, they finally arrived at their destination. In front of them was an enormous whirlpool. It was spinning like a long river, releasing bright light. Seeing this, Zichun immediately closed his eyes. This is the land of soul refinement, also known as the extreme whirlpool. However, it is not dangerous. The old man's voice rang in his ears. Zichun opened his eyes and saw the old man walking in front of the extreme whirlpool. Then, he took out the fishing net from behind him, took out the crystal, and threw it into the whirlpool. "Will there be a person inside?" Zichun asked again. "No," the old man replied. "Why are you so sure? If it's a person, throw it into the extreme whirlpool and it will wake up on its own." "Then what if it's a person who won't wake up?" Zichun asked again. "Then it's not a person, it's a law crystal." The old man answered. "If it's a person, it will wake up. If it's not, it's a law crystal." Zichun understood. There might be people who can't wake up, but they've already become part of the laws. Or rather, they've become law crystals. From the whirlpool in front of them, streaks of light suddenly flew out. This was pure extreme force. There were a total of 4 streaks that flew out from the whirlpool. The old man reached out his hand to catch them. The old man retracted his power, turned around, picked up the fishing net, and began to return. Zichun followed behind. "You can only produce so many streaks of power each time? For streaks of power is already quite a lot. Sometimes, there's only one." On the way back, the old man clearly sped up. Zichun looked around along the way. "Can this extreme force grow?"
It can.
The old man answered. "Once you enter the extreme whirlpool, you might be able to obtain even more extreme force." As if guessing what Zichun wanted to ask, the old man continued. "However, after entering the whirlpool, the consumption of extreme force will be great." Zichun went silent. Following behind the old man, he began to think about the direction of his future. "I'm already having trouble surviving. Do I have to destroy my own eyes as well? Other than this, how else can I obtain power?" Zichun asked. Obviously, he couldn't destroy his own eyes. Further out, it's said that there's a kind of strange beast living here that has existed for as long as this place. Once caught, you can also put it into the extreme whirlpool in exchange for a portion of extreme force. The old man spoke at a steady pace. "Have you seen it before?" Zichun asked. "No." The old man slowly shook his head. "Leaving this place means death. No one can leave." "No one?" Zichun asked. "You mean there are other people here?" "There are a few existences like me, but I didn't meet them this time. The old man returned. Zichen followed him back to his room. Here, the rate at which extreme force was disappearing was much slower, but Zichen could still feel the loss of power. Zichen stood up and walked outside. Where are you going? To the stairs. There's no consumption there. It wasn't easy for the old man to obtain power, so he couldn't keep giving it to him for free. It's not safe there. There'll occasionally be riots. You'll get lost, the old man said. I'll close my eyes. Zichen memorized the path and returned to the stone stairs he came from. There were a total of 999 steps, but he didn't reach the top, only stopping after 3 steps. Right now, he was feeling a bit weak, because his extreme force had already been consumed by a lot. Do I really have to destroy my own eyes and become a corpse fisherman? Zichen was a bit worried. Boundless light bloomed from the galaxy, almost like a gust of wind. Zichen closed his eyes and fell asleep. Chapter 4977. Zichen sat on the stone steps in a daze, not daring to believe all of this. Through careful observation, he found that a portion of his extreme power had indeed recovered. Before sleeping, he already felt weak. He thought that since he wouldn't consume too much energy here, he would refine his extreme power after waking up. He didn't expect that after waking up, his extreme power had recovered a bit. At this moment, the old man came with the fishing net, ready to start a new day. Senior, if I stay on the stone steps, can the extreme power recover on its own? Zichen asked. No. The old man looked at Zichen and sensed the change in his aura. He was a bit surprised. Zichen took out the extreme power, but he hadn't refined it yet. The old man's expression became a bit surprised. You're a bit special. The old blind man walked up the stone steps without asking for the reason. Zichen still followed behind. Have you thought about it? The old blind man asked. What do you want to do? What can I do? Zichen asked. If you stay here, you can only be a corpse fisherman. If you leave, I don't know. The old man said, the people here almost never communicate. It's already kind of them not to rob when they meet. It's said that if you keep going deeper, you'll be able to survive. Zichen followed behind the old man, still not making a decision. He didn't look down and just sat there, watching the old man cast the net again and again. This time, the old man's luck was very bad. He didn't harvest anything for an entire day. It was said that this was very normal. Sometimes, there would be no harvest for several days. After that, the old man put away the net and planned to leave. Do you want to go back with me? The night here might not be perfect, the old man said. Zichen shook his head. He didn't consume much energy today, and the extreme power was still in his body. With this power, Zichen didn't have to worry about his life being in danger. The old man left, not insisting on inviting him. Zichen continued to stay here. This time, he stood on the 10th stone step. The sky gradually darkened. There was only day and night here, no sun or moon. Because he fell into a deep sleep yesterday, Zichen didn't see the night. Today, he wanted to see it. There seemed to be movement in the Milky Way behind him. Zichen didn't dare to turn around to look, for fear of danger. The old man was not here. Once he got lost, no one would be able to find him. Gradually, the sky turned completely dark. He couldn't even see his own fingers. Zichen felt a little bored and decided to cultivate here. Cultivation was something he had done for many years. Naturally, he closed his eyes and began to circulate his cultivation method. However, it didn't have any effect because the rules of the past could no longer be used here. This was just a habit, and Zichen did not expect a miracle to happen. His heart was beating. In this dark night, the sound seemed to be exceptionally clear. Suddenly, Zichen opened his eyes. In the dark night, a bright light flashed through his eyes. In his perception just now, there was a surge of power emerging from his heart and entering every part of his body. The power that entered his body was like the power of extremity. His heart came from a dilapidated world, and there were layers of seals inside. After many years of sealing, it still had extraordinary power, and it was all thanks to the help of the black stone. Now, in this place where the rules were different, the power of extremity was flowing out from his heart, which made Zichen feel quite surprised. Because this might be his hope of survival. He closed his eyes again, trying to maintain a meditative state. After a while, that strange feeling appeared again. Every time his heart beat, a trace of power would surge out and enter his body. This power was very weak, but it was real. As his heart beat, it entered his body through his blood. Zichen silently sensed it, and this time, he did not make too much of a fuss. After a long time, he opened his eyes, and there was a look of pleasant surprise in his eyes. Yesterday was not an illusion. His body could indeed recover extremity power, and this power came from his heart. Zichun did not know why this was, but for the current situation, this was a good thing. At that moment, a gust of wind appeared, and Zichun felt his body suddenly become cold. A bone-piercing chill entered his body, causing him to shiver. In the next moment, his expression changed because two rays of light had appeared in front of him. They were like gems, shining in the dark night. Zichun stood up, his expression full of vigilance. His body glowed as he activated the power of extremity. This was not the light of a gem, but a pair of eyes. In the dark night, Zichun could not see the other side clearly, but he could guess. One man and one beast faced off. The pair of eyes seemed to be getting closer, and Zichun retreated. There were more than 900 steps in total, so he was not worried that the other side would follow him. This was because in Zichun's heart, he felt that the stone steps might be able to stop it. His surroundings became even darker, and only the two rays of light remained. Suddenly, Zichun's heart jumped, and his eyes glowed. This was the celestial spiritual eye. He had successfully activated it. His surroundings seemed to have turned from night to day, and his vision suddenly became clear. In front of him, there was a black beast coldly staring at him. Zichun was not sure if he could kill the other side, so he did not dare to act rashly. And this black beast was also looking at Zichun. Zichun noticed that the other side's body did not light up. In other words, it did not need the power of extremity in here. Why is that? The confrontation lasted for a full 15 minutes, and finally the other side retreated. But Zichun still did not dare to go down, and even retreated a bit, standing in the middle of the stone steps. He had doubts in his heart, so he needed to ask the old man tomorrow. This night was destined to be a sleepless night. When the sky brightened, Zichun sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. He sensed the trace of power in his heart. About half an hour later, the old man came. Zichun went to the bottom of the stone steps to greet him. "Senior, last night, I met a black beast." "Oh?" The old man's expression changed. It was below the stone steps and did not come up, but it seemed very fierce. Zichun said, "But I noticed that it did not have the power of extremity around it. Why is that?" The old man shook his head, indicating that he did not know, because he had never seen such a black beast, only heard of it. Perhaps they were born here, and their bodies have adapted to the rules here. The old man continued to cast the net. This was just his guess, and he said it casually. However, Zichun's expression changed, because a similar power was being released from his heart. Then what was the connection between the two? Obviously, there was no way to verify it now. At least he had to stay here for a few more days to see his own situation. Suddenly, Zichun thought of something and said, "Senior, can you support me a bit? I want to see the Milky Way." "You will lose yourself in a glance." "I want to try. Please help me." "Okay then." Zichun walked forward, and when he was about to see the Milky Way, he used his immortal spiritual eye. Chapter 4978. Too many things had happened recently, and he did not have a single chapter in stock. He could barely keep up with the new book, and would try to write a few chapters in stock tomorrow or the day after. Thunder Martial Arts has not been updated today. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4979. Zichun saw the Milky Way. It was a dazzling light that contained countless laws. Zichun had never seen some of these laws before. Countless precepts formed an existence that resembled a river that flowed down below. It was vast and mighty, bringing with it a sense of grandeur. Zichun was shocked and glad at the same time. Old Blind raised his head and looked at Zichun. His expression changed. "You can see it?" Zichun nodded. I think I know what I should do. Old Blind's eyes were filled with shock. What did you see? A Milky Way formed by countless laws. Zichun said. Old Blind nodded. You're indeed extraordinary. At this moment, Zichun suddenly retreated and sat down. Why aren't you looking? Isn't it nice? Old Blind asked again. It's nice, but I looked down on it. Zichun was helpless. In a short moment, his extreme power had been greatly depleted. Zichun was certain that it was caused by looking at the Milky Way, because when he used the immortal spiritual eye last night, it was not so depleted. However, he was not worried at the moment. He sat beside Old Blind and began to meditate to recover. Old Blind sat at the side and remained silent. After a while, Zichun opened his eyes. His extreme power had recovered a little. Amazing, really amazing. Old Blind sensed it and exclaimed. To him, this was a miracle that he had witnessed. Seems like you have a chance to enter the depths. Old Blind said. Depths? There are many people here who have gone to the depths. Only ordinary existences would stay outside and become corpse fishermen. Old Blind said. Those who go to the depths have some ability. What's in the depths? I don't know. Old Blind did not know about the depths. Zichun did not need to know because he had to rely on himself. Therefore, he wanted to become a corpse fisherman. It's easy to become a corpse fisherman. Go to the edge of the area and use your mind. Following Old Blind's instructions, Zichun walked down the more than 900 stone steps and arrived 500 feet away from Old Blind. He took a step forward and used his mind. Wong. In an instant, ripples surged out in front of Zichun, and countless rules appeared between heaven and earth. These rules were completely different from what Zichun had seen. They converged in front of him, forming a series of stone steps, a total of 999 levels. On the stone steps, boundless light shone, and laws flickered. After a while, everything returned to silence. Right now, Zichun seemed to be able to understand why the strange beasts hadn't ascended the stairs yesterday. This place was completely made up of rules, so it might have a deterrent effect on it. Zichun walked up the stairs and arrived at the top. He saw a large net of laws neatly placed there. Zichun glanced at the sky, feeling very surprised. Who created this? Even if they were drawn by rules, who was the one who set the rules here? His eyes flickered as he activated his immortal spiritual eyes. Then, he started to cast the net far away. Zichun then sat down and waved at Old Blind from afar. Afterwards, Zichun withdrew his immortal spiritual eye so that he wouldn't use it anytime, anywhere. Zichun closed his eyes and continued to recover. About an hour later, he started to reel in the net, but there was no gain. He continued to cast the net, using his immortal spiritual eyes. Then, he continued to recover. On this day, he reeled in the net several times, but there was no gain. At night, Zichun didn't go back with the old man. Today, the old man also didn't gain anything. After 2 days of no gain, Zichun saw the hardships of life here. He also knew that the old man wasn't easy. He still hadn't used his extreme energy. When night came, Zichun sat cross-legged on his own stairs, in the middle. In the dark night, he couldn't see anything. The old man said that this place wasn't safe at night, and that there might be some changes in the Milky Way. With the immortal spiritual eyes, the Milky Way wasn't so scary anymore. Zichun planned to go up and take a look. At the top of the stairs, Zichun looked down and saw the Milky Way again. Compared to the day, the light here was more intense, and the Milky Way flowed faster. Vaguely, he could see large amounts of true law crystals floating up and down. Zichun's heart skipped a beat. Could he cast the net at night? He decided to give it a try and cast the net down. Then, he turned around and looked down the stairs. The strange beasts from yesterday didn't appear. Behind them, there was a bright light, but in front of them, there was only darkness. Seeing no abnormalities, Zichun decided to continue recovering. After an hour, Zichun began to reel in the net. This time, there was a gain. A huge crystal appeared in the net. Finally, there was a gain. Zichun put it aside and cast the net a second time. This time, there was no gain. Then, there was a third time, and a fourth time. When the old man came the next day, Zichun had already fished up 2 crystals. There might be people inside, But after waiting for an entire night and not seeing anyone revive, it must be a pure crystal. Zichun carried the 2 crystals on his back and walked down the stone steps. When the old man saw this, he was very surprised. Zichun gave the old man a crystal. The old man refused at first, but in the end, he couldn't resist Zichun and accepted it. The 2 of them walked towards the extreme vortex. As long as he exchanged for extreme energy, Zichun would have more confidence. "How's the Star River at night?" the old man asked on the way. "It's brighter and more turbulent. I can faintly see some real objects. I suspect those are crystals." Zichun described everything he saw. The old man listened silently. Obviously, he couldn't see, otherwise, he would be lost. When they arrived at the extreme vortex, the 2 of them threw the crystals in one after another. According to the old man, if there was someone inside, they would revive in the extreme vortex. If there was no one, they would become extreme energy. 2 rays of light flew towards Zichun and turned into extreme energy. 3 rays of light came from the old man's side. The amount of extreme energy one could obtain depended on luck. The old man took out a ray of extreme energy to give to Zichun, but Zichun refused. He had a clear advantage. As long as his luck wasn't bad, he would have an endless harvest. But the old man was different. After the 2 of them returned, the old man went to cast another net, but didn't find anything the entire day. Zichun was recovering. When the sky darkened and the old man returned, he began to work. The first time, he didn't find anything. The second time, he found something. Then the third time, the fourth time. When the sky brightened, Zichun found 3 crystals. This time, he still wanted to give one to the old man, but the old man refused. No matter what Zichun said, the old man didn't want it this time. And so, the old man continued to climb the stairs, relying on himself. Zichun carried the 3 crystals on his back and went to the extreme vortex alone to exchange for energy. Chapter 4980. This was the second person Zichun met in this place besides the old man. He was also a corpse fisherman who had lost his eyes. After seeing Zichun, he was very surprised, but he didn't come over to greet Zichun. The old man had already exchanged for extreme energy and was going back. He looked at Zichun from afar, his gaze mainly falling on the 3 crystals behind Zichun. He was very surprised. 3 crystals at a time. This was a really big harvest. Zichun didn't take the initiative to talk to him. After walking to the extreme vortex alone, he threw the 3 crystals inside. If they were human, they would be able to revive themselves. If they weren't human, they would become extreme energy. 8 streams of extreme energy flew out one after another. Zichun put them away. After exchanging, Zichun began to return. During this time, his extreme energy had been consumed to a certain extent, so Zichun directly refined one. Like life force, as he refined it, the extreme energy he consumed was quickly replenished. This was the first time Zichun refined extreme energy since coming here, and it felt pretty good. After returning, Zichun saw the old man pulling in the net. His luck was pretty good. He got a single crystal this time. The old man walked down the stairs, seemingly satisfied with just one. After saying goodbye to the old man, Zichun watched him leave. He didn't cast the net during the day because he clearly didn't get much. After tasting the sweetness of 2 nights, he decided to work at night from now on. Zichun now had a total of 10 streams of extreme energy. He planned to save some more to ensure that he had enough life force before going deeper. Looking at the sky, the old man wouldn't come again today. Zichun waited until it was dark, then looked around. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, he continued to cast the net. The Milky Way at night was even more dazzling and surging. That night, Zichun got 2 crystals. When the old man came in the morning, Zichun greeted him and left with the 2 crystals. When he was about to reach the extreme vortex, he saw another corpse fisherman. They didn't talk. According to the old man's words, these people were extremely vigilant. Because it was not easy to survive, they would steal from each other. This time, Zichun had obtained 4 strands of energy. He did not consume any of it during the journey, so he sat on the stone steps in a daze. The old man didn't gain anything today either, but he was used to it and wasn't depressed. Soon, it was night. Zichun sat at the top of the stone steps. After casting the net, he began to cultivate. His heart was constantly pouring energy into his body. Currently, it was enough to sustain him using the immortal spiritual eye at night. That night, Zichun obtained 3 crystals. When he met the old man during the day, the old man praised him. 2 more days passed. One day, when the old man arrived, he did not directly climb his own stone steps. Instead, he went to where Zichun was. "Senior, are you looking for me?" Zichun opened his eyes and looked at the old man. The old man said, "You've been exchanging for extreme energy too frequently recently, so you might have been targeted. Don't go exchanging for the next few days." Oh? Zichun thought of other corpse fishermen. During this period, he had met them several times, but he had never greeted them. Moreover, they were all different people. It's too difficult to fish for crystals. Often, there will be people who don't get anything for 3 to 5 days. Not only do you get something every day, your gains are not small either. You need to be careful. After reminding Zichun, the old man left. Zichun sat there and thought for a while before deciding not to exchange for crystals. In fact, during this period of time, he had already saved up a lot of extreme energy. He already had thoughts of leaving. For 2 days, Zichun did not go out to exchange. But at night, he was still fishing, and there were already 4 crystals beside him. On the 3rd night, it was unknown whether it was due to his good luck or not. But Zichun had obtained a total of 5 crystals. Therefore, during the day, Zichun found the old man and asked him to help. Although the old man was a bit hesitant, he did not refuse. Zichun carried 5 crystals while the old man carried 4. The 2 of them walked towards the extreme whirlpool. This time, before they even reached the destination, corpse fishermen appeared. There were 3 of them. Not bad. The 3 of them walked forward. They did not have eyes, but their expressions showed that they were up to no good. Zichun put the crystals on the ground and said coldly, "What do you want?" "Nothing. I'm just curious. You didn't destroy your eyes, so how did you become a corpse fisherman?" Among the 3, the one in the middle asked, "Can't I just close my eyes?" Zichun said, "Easy for you to say. If it was so easy, why would we destroy our eyes?" The other one sneered, "Gentlemen, this seems to be against the rules." The old man walked up. "Old man, are you stupid? What rules are there here? Being alive is the biggest rule." The one in the middle had a cold expression. The 3 of them were holding a wooden stick in their hands, and they were holding it tightly. "I'll give each of you 1 strand of energy, and you can leave now, okay?" The old blind man said again, "You old thing, it seems that you're really stupid. There are 9 crystals in front of me. Why should I take 3 strands of energy?" The other one's expression was cold. "Because if you take 3 strands of energy, you can live. If you have any ideas about the 9 crystals, you will die." Zichun said coldly, "There would be no peace anywhere, so strictly speaking, he was never a good person. For example, Zichun had the intention to kill, but he was willing to give the 3 of them a chance to live." What a joke. 3 against 2. Do you think we're afraid of you? The other party waved the long stick in his hand and smashed it forward. Zichun clenched his right fist and punched out. Bang! Zichun retreated, his palm burning with pain. "Idiot! How can your body of flesh and blood withstand my weapon?" The other party came forward again and smashed the wooden stick down. The old man took the wooden stick and was about to step forward. "Senior, retreat. I'll deal with them." Zichun's hand flashed, and the bone stick appeared. "You want to compete in toughness?" He smiled coldly and smashed the bone stick down. Whoosh! A ray of light flashed, and the long stick instantly turned into powder when it met the bone stick. At the same time, the bone stick's momentum did not decrease. After destroying the wooden stick, it landed on the other person's body and sent him flying. When the other party fell to the ground, half of his body had disappeared. The other party let out a scream and immediately took out a strand of extreme energy to refine. Seeing this, the other 2 people's expressions changed. One of them said involuntarily, "You're whoosh, whoosh." Zichun stepped forward and smashed the bone stick down. Since he had decided to kill, there was no need to hold back. Bang, bang. 2 loud tremors sounded, and the 2 people were sent flying. After they landed, they screamed in horror. One of them took out extreme energy to refine, while the other did not take out his energy in time. His body turned into light and disappeared. Not even a corpse was left. Chapter 4981. The two of them retreated in fear. They didn't expect to meet such a terrifying existence. The old man was also stunned. Zichen's strength was beyond his expectation. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Please." The two of them retreated. At this moment, the extreme energy they had just refined was repairing their disappearing bodies. Zichen's eyes were cold. The bone club in his hand struck again. Since he had decided to kill, of course, he wouldn't be merciful. Swoosh! As the bone stick fell, a ray of light scattered, and a person's body dissipated. "Spare me, I have power. I'll give you power," the last person shouted in fear, immediately taking out 2 strands of extreme energy. "You have power, but you still want to rob others? I said I would let you leave with me. Why didn't you want to? Why do you have to die?" In Zichen's hand, the bone club smashed again. The other party disappeared, leaving behind 2 strands of extreme energy. Zichen bent down and picked them up. It seemed that no matter where he went, there would be disputes. When Zichen returned, he saw 3 more strands of extreme energy. They were left behind by the 2 who had died earlier. It seemed that even if they disappeared, the extreme energy wouldn't disperse. Zichen put away the energy, walked back, and left with his crystals. On the way, he picked up a long club. The old man followed behind. After throwing 5 crystals into it, Zichen received 14 strands of extreme energy. He turned to look at the old man. The old man caught the remaining 4 crystals, then handed them to Zichen. "Senior, farewell." Zichen didn't take them. Instead, he said goodbye to the old man. The old man was startled. "You're leaving?" He knew that Zichen would leave sooner or later, but he didn't expect it to be so soon. Zichen nodded and said, "These strands of extreme energy are my thanks to you, Senior. Thank you for taking care of me during this time." "You can't do that. You're going deeper. That's an unknown place. You need to bring more extreme energy." The old man refused. "I still have a lot on me. Don't worry, Senior." Clasping his fists at the old man, Zichen turned and left. He walked through the extreme energy vortex, walking forward. The old man kept looking at Zichen until his figure disappeared. "Take care," the old man muttered. He retracted all of his power and turned back. The two of them took opposite paths. The old man had already accumulated quite a bit of extreme energy, but he was already used to this kind of lifestyle, so he didn't want to change it. What lay ahead was unknown. Zichen continued forward. Along the way, he did not see anything. Even vegetation was rare. The wooden stick in his hand was a little heavy, showing its extraordinary side. However, in front of the bone staff, they were unable to withstand a single blow. The old man didn't know where the depths were, so he didn't give Zichen any directions. Zichen could only walk in the direction he thought was the depths. After walking for about an hour, Zichen took out a strand of energy to refine. The previous battle had caused him to expend quite a bit of his extreme power. In this kind of unknown place, everything had to be done with caution. It was a great taboo to not be able to maintain sufficient strength. There was no sun during the day, but judging by the time, it was almost dark. Zichen didn't find any other buildings, nor did he find any other place to rest. This night was destined to be unusual. As the sky gradually darkened, Zichen found a high ground and walked up. He sat cross-legged, waiting for night to come. There was no moon or Xingqian in the night. Heaven and earth were completely dark. Only Zichen was bright. He opened his eyes. In this unfamiliar place, he felt a bit uneasy. His eyes couldn't see anything around him, which made him even more uneasy. He didn't try to use his immortal spirit eye, because he wasn't sure what he would see. The wind started to blow. Inside the howling wind, something seemed to be blowing on his body, causing his clothes to flutter. Maybe it was the wind that blew the leaves. Zichen held the staff in his hand and began to focus on circulating his cultivation technique. He maintained absolute focus, making himself even more vigilant. The howling wind was still howling around him, like the cries of ghosts. Zichen sat cross-legged there, not moving at all. Suddenly, the howling wind stopped. Zichen suddenly opened his eyes. There was a bright light flowing in his eyes. In his field of vision, two strange beasts appeared. They were trying to approach, but when they saw the light in Zichen's eyes, they were clearly shocked and retreated. Swish! The light flashed again. Zichen took out his bone staff. His eyes flashed with a cold light, and he immediately turned around, sweeping the bone staff in his hand. Bang! A strange beast that was pouncing towards him was hit, and its body rolled far away. After it landed, it let out a scream, and then fled in panic. Zichen looked ahead and saw that there were still two beasts that were slowly retreating. Zichen's body emitted light, like a lighthouse in the dark night. As his body spun in circles, there were 8 strange beasts around. His extreme power was quickly depleting. Because this was the wilderness, he needed to replenish his power. Zichen held the bone staff in his hand, pointing at those strange beasts. Whichever one he pointed at, it began to retreat, its cold eyes filled with vigilance and fear. Zichen withdrew his immortal spiritual eye, and the surroundings immediately became dark. But in the eyes of these strange beasts, he was definitely the brightest. Zichen held the bone staff in his hand, and even in the dark night, the bone staff was still bright. He closed his eyes again, but his heart was still unable to calm down. Those strange beasts were still wandering around, and Zichen could feel their presence, but they did not attack. Before, there were signs of attack, but now there were no signs of attack. Zichen suspected that the bone staff had deterred them. In order to test his guess, he poured a portion of energy into the bone staff. Wong! The bone staff's luster became even brighter. Zichen heard extremely faint sounds of movement, and those strange beasts were retreating. He opened his eyes again and used his immortal spiritual eye and saw that the strange beasts were indeed retreating. They stopped pouring energy into the bone staff and approached again, but stopped when they were 4 zhang away and did not come any closer. After repeating this a few times, Zichen finally felt relieved. After swallowing the second strand of energy, he began to meditate cross-legged and operated his cultivation method. At the same time, his other hand also tightly grasped a strand of extreme power. When he killed those 3 people, Zichen discovered that as long as they were not killed instantly, he could use extreme power to revive them. Therefore, if the bone staff was unable to deter them, he could still replenish his energy at a critical moment after being attacked. This night was undoubtedly torturous for Zichen, but it would eventually pass. When the sky brightened, Zichen completely calmed down, and all the strange beasts retreated. Another 2 hours later, Zichen opened his eyes, and his mental state was extremely good. He jumped down from a high place, put away the bone staff, and picked up the wooden staff from the side, and continued to walk forward. Unknowingly, he increased his speed. This night, he did not spend the night, because he saw a city surrounded by high walls. Chapter 4982. This place could barely be considered a city. There were wooden fences around it that were dozens of feet tall, which should be able to keep those beasts at bay. Zichen walked in and found that there were quite a lot of people here. He became the center of attention as soon as he entered. Everyone was sizing him up, seeming to be very curious. "Excuse me, where's this place?" Zichen asked with a fist salute. "This is Dharma Breaker City." A middle-aged man walked towards Zichen with a smile. "Little brother, where are you from?" Zichen pointed into the distance. "That place." The middle-aged man smiled. "It must have been difficult to come all the way here, right?" He looked at Zichen from head to toe. "You weren't torn apart by the Dharma Breaker beasts. You're quite lucky." "Dharma Breaker beasts?" Zichen was surprised. "You didn't encounter any?" The middle-aged man was surprised. "I encountered a few black beasts, but I don't know if they're Dharma Breaker beasts," Zichen said honestly. "That's them. You've already encountered them, but you still made it here. Looks like you're quite lucky." The middle-aged man smiled. "You're new here, so you don't have a place to stay, right? Come, I'll find you a place to stay. From now on, if there are no accidents, you'll be staying here." Zichen thanked him immediately. He didn't know anything about this place, so he really needed someone to lead the way. "We're called Dharma Breaker City because we're in the land of Dharma Breaker. As for how we got this name, no one knows. It's just passed down from generation to generation. In short, those who are capable go to better places, and those who aren't, stay here. The middle-aged man was very talkative. He talked about things here along the way, and suddenly smiled. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tommy. What about you, little brother? What's your name? Zichun. That's a good name. Tommy spoke gently with a smile on his face. This place is just like the outside world. You're from the outside, so you should have seen the corpse fishermen. They belong to the lowest class in the land of Dharma Breaker. They don't have any goals. They just waste time waiting for death. If they find something, they can live for 2 more days. If they don't, they can only wait for death. All of them are gluttonous and lazy, waiting for death. What a bunch of weirdos. Zichun said, that's not entirely true. They're also very hardworking. Zichun, don't overthink it. I don't mean to belittle them. I'm just talking about their current state. Tommy smiled and said, think about it. In order to survive, you would rather destroy your own eyes. If you have the courage, why don't you come here? Isn't it better to live there than outside? Actually, we're not that much better off than them. However, relatively speaking, our lives are much easier. Zichun looked at Tommy and asked curiously, how do the people here survive? Hunting beast. Tommy said, everyone, let's work together and find the lawbreaker beast. After killing it, we'll be able to obtain the extreme energy. Are they easy to kill? Zichun asked again. Of course it's not good to be alone, but it's not a problem if there are more people. However, there are dangers sometimes, and people often die. As they spoke, Tommy led Zichun to a residence that was built with wood and looked very sturdy. In fact, Zichun had already sensed that the wood here was very hard. Although there were few plants along the way, those that were found were all very tough. If they were in the outside world, they could be used as weapons. A brother of mine used to live here, but he was killed by a lawbreaker beast when he went out hunting, so this place has been empty ever since. Tommy explained, actually, this place doesn't belong to my brother. Everything here belongs to the mayor. Tommy pushed the door open. The room was very clean. There was a wooden table, a few stools, and a wooden bed. After entering, Zichun felt that the speed of energy loss had obviously decreased. He thanked him profusely. Compared to the vigilant corpse fishermen outside, the people here were much friendlier. Tommy waved his hand and said, you're welcome. To extreme energy. Huh. Zichun was startled. Tommy's smile didn't fade. Zichun, it's not free to live here. You have to pay to extreme energy. Everyone is like that. Tommy pointed in a direction and said, you forgot. I just said that there's a mayor here. Everything here belongs to the mayor. The house, the city walls, everything. The mayor provides us with a place to live, so of course he has to pay. Oh, that's only natural. Zichun heard and immediately took out 2 extreme energy. He was a bit pained, but he also felt lucky. He said, fortunately, we're here. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Okay, then I'll take it for you. Tommy stood up and said, Zichun, you rest here first. If you want to go hunting, you can come with us. We'll distribute the extreme energy according to your contribution. Zichun heard and said, that's great. Tommy smiled. Of course, I'm very familiar with everyone in the team. Just give them a call, and I'll be able to help you. While saying that, he looked at Zichun. Zichun reacted and said, then I'll have to trouble you, big brother Tommy. Then, he reluctantly took out a stream of extreme energy and gave it to Tommy with a smile. Tommy took the energy and patted his chest, saying, don't worry, leave it to me. I'll try to make sure you can go hunting with the team tomorrow morning. After sending Tommy away, Zichun closed the door. Since he was outside, he had to be a bit more careful. He prepared quite a bit of extreme energy for this trip, so he didn't use much on the way, which was much better than he expected. So right now, he still had a lot of extreme energy left. He then sat cross-legged on his bed and began to recover his energy. As his scripture circulated, his heart beat, replenishing his extreme energy. Zichun wasn't sure how much extreme energy was stored in his heart, and he didn't know when it would be used up. Tommy walked out of Zichun's room with the same smile on his face. Tommy, You look like you're in a good mood. Did you get something good? Someone asked. Tommy curled his lip, saying, Good my ass. He's so poor. He only got one extreme energy no matter how hard he tried. He looks like a decent person, but he's actually so poor. Are you going hunting tomorrow? Of course. That's great. Bring that brat along. He can help us out too. Sure. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. That night, Zichen stayed in his room and no longer had the feeling of being on edge. That night, he had a very peaceful night. By the time the sun rose, his extreme power had already fully recovered. Stretching his back, Zichen practiced a set of fist techniques. This was a fist technique from the Saint Spirit realm, but because of the different laws, it didn't have any effect here. Chapter 4983. Zichen opened the door and saw Tommy standing outside with a smile on his face. When he saw Zichen, he scanned him from head to toe. His eyes lit up. It's done. Let's go. Zichen nodded. After closing the door, Zichen followed Tommy. The two of them walked towards the city gate. Along the way, they saw some people. Almost all of their gazes were on Zichen. Some were curious, but most of their gazes were cold. Or rather, they were pitiful. Let's go. Everyone wait outside. Zichen saw a group of 6 people at the gate. When they saw Tommy, they immediately waved at him. Zichen followed them. Everyone looked at Zichen and sensed that he was at his peak. A strong man smiled. Good boy. Not bad. Zichen saw this person yesterday. He nodded at him. Tommy said, This is Willie. Willie, his name is Zichen. Willie went up and patted Zichen's shoulder. Do your best. Then, Tommy introduced the other 5 people one by one. One of them, Lu Fu, said, Let's go. Time is of the essence. We'll try to come back tomorrow. Are we going to spend the night outside? Zichen's expression changed. The lawbreaker beast usually only comes out at night. Of course we're going to spend the night outside. Why? You don't want to? Then let's go back. Tommy had introduced him earlier. His name was Derek. Of course, we're going, Zichen said immediately. The 8 of them walked out. Zichen carried the wooden stick he brought. This was his protection. Zichen, you look like a corpse fisherman. Take a look at what we've got. Tommy held a spear. Of course, it was also made of wood. However, it had been polished and looked very sharp. The others were also holding weapons. There were knives and swords, but they were all made of wood. Zichen had once asked Old Blind why they didn't use weapons. The answer was that the weapons from the original world would become very fragile after coming here because of the different rules. For example, a Heaven's Chosen soldier could be easily smashed by Zichen with the wooden stick as if it was tofu. This was the influence of the rules. Zichen had guessed more than once that what was in the Milky Way was the law of the myriad worlds. As for this place, it was a place where the Milky Way had filtered through. In other words, it was a higher level space. Therefore, the rules here were above the myriad worlds. Zichen had once guessed that this might be the Immortal Spells world, but he quickly rejected that notion. The Immortal Spells world was an extremely lively place. It would not be so desolate. Other than that, the rules of the Immortal Techniques world were the same as the 10,000 realms. This could be seen from the many legacies he had obtained. At the same time, Zichen also guessed that it was possible that this was the source of the world. The rules came from here, using the Milky Way as the foundation to create the myriad worlds. He had asked the old man about it, but the old man did not seem to care about it. It was as if the old man was the happiest thing in the world. As for the matters of the outside world, the old man had said that he had forgotten many things, as he no longer had any attachments. But Zichen could not. He still had friends and family. He had to go back. Even though this path was very bumpy, everyone was holding wooden weapons, and no one was holding bone weapons. Zichen had tried it before. Other than extreme energy, which could be stored in the devil's space, nothing else could be stored. For example, this wooden weapon and the fishing net of the past. It was the same, but Zichen's bone stick could be stored away at will. This surprised him. At the same time, the immortal spiritual eye could also be used here. It was a little unbelievable. The group did not speak much. As they moved forward, Their gazes swept the surroundings. Zichun, go get some branches. After walking for 2 hours, Tommy saw some withered branches and immediately instructed Zichun to pick them up. Zichun nodded and went to pick up a lot. They were probably going to start a fire at night. These branches were already withered. Compared to other vegetation, they were less resilient, but they were still very tough. After Zichun picked up a handful and carried them, it undoubtedly increased the consumption of his energy. Arriving at a wasteland, Wiley stood on a high ground. He looked around and said, "Today, we will hunt here." Everyone nodded in agreement. Zichun, leave the things here. Go get some more branches. We have to stay here for a night. We have to make the fire stronger, Tommy said. Zichun nodded again, and then went back the way they came. There were some withered branches on the way back. Originally, only Zichun had brought withered branches. The others were empty-handed. The 7 of them looked at Zichun silently. Lu Fu smiled and said, "Very obedient." Then, the 7 of them sat there and chatted. As they chatted, their bodies lit up. Their lives were being consumed. But compared to Zichun, who was busy, the consumption was much less. After 4 trips, Zichun sat on the ground. He had consumed a lot of energy. If this continued, he would have to use extreme energy before nightfall. "Why did you stop?" "It's not enough," Tommy said. "1 pile in the middle and at least 6 piles on the sides. Only then can we ensure everyone's safety." Zichun hesitated and said, "I used too much energy." "It's okay if you use more energy now. Anyway, you won't do anything. When the law-breaking beast comes, we will deal with it," Tommy said. "Since you have joined this group, you have to contribute. If you don't want to contribute, then you want to get something. How can that be? Don't you think so?" "Okay." Zichun stood up. "Don't be unwilling. If you don't want to join the group, you can just leave," Derek said indifferently. Derek said faintly, "We don't want another person who doesn't know anything to share our harvest with us." Zichun didn't say anything. He went back and forth a few times, carrying 7 piles of firewood and placing them in 7 places. The sky gradually darkened. The 7 of them stopped chatting and went to the piles of firewood. There was 1 pile in the middle and 6 piles on the sides. When the sky was completely dark, they started to light the fire. The flames burned brightly, making the surroundings brighter. The 7 of them sat in the middle of the fire. Zichun sat alone on the side. It could be seen that the 7 of them became nervous. Soon, the wind blew, and there was light in the dark night. Law-breaking beasts. Zichun stared ahead. His face couldn't help but change. Because of the light, he could see that there were a lot of law-breaking beasts. Why are there so many? Willie and the others were stunned for a moment before their expressions turned ugly. Our luck is really bad. We can only admit that we are unlucky. Tommy stood up and looked at Zichun. He said, "Zichun, we have to go back." "Now?" Zichun was slightly stunned. "It's so dangerous. How can we go back?" "Take care." A voice suddenly came from behind Zichun. When he turned around, Derek stabbed his saber into his chest. Pulling out his saber, Derek walked away. Chapter 4984. Seeing that the situation was not good, they immediately retreated. One had to admit that everyone left very decisively without any hesitation. However, if they wanted to escape successfully, they needed a bait, and that person was Zichun. Looking at the other party's skillful movements, he must have done this many times. Zichun used a strand of energy to join the team, but they actually used him as cannon fodder. Zichun fell to the ground, and his extreme power was quickly dissipating. The dissipating power seemed to have a unique aura to the law-breaking beasts. The eyes of those law-breaking beasts changed obviously, and they gradually became irritable. Everyone left, but they did not chase after them. Instead, they stared at Zichun. Under the light of the bonfire, Zichun saw that the law-breaking beasts were trying to approach. He immediately took out a strand of energy to refine, but for some reason, his injuries were difficult to recover quickly, and his power was still dissipating. These law-breaking beasts began to approach, and a few of them lowered their heads, preparing to attack. Whoosh! Zichun took out his bone staff, and a wave of pressure immediately spread out. Those law-breaking beasts immediately stopped and looked at the bone staff warily. Buzz. Zichun began to activate the bone staff with all his strength, and a powerful aura immediately surged out. Those law-breaking beasts began to retreat, and there was fear in their eyes. With his injuries and the bone staff, Zichun's energy consumption was increasing rapidly, but he could not care about that now. He had to survive first. Hate those few people? Curse them out loud? He did not have the time at all. He sat up, and then waved the bone staff back and forth. Those law-breaking beasts retreated again, and they were already out of the range of the bonfire. Zichun retracted some of the bone staff's energy, stood in the middle of the bonfire, and accelerated the refinement of the energy, trying to recover first. Before the first strand of energy was completely refined, he took out the second strand. Zichun had seen with his own eyes that a corpse fisherman's body dissipated because he did not have time to refine the energy. He obviously did not want to go to this step. He wanted to live. He did not expect to encounter such a man-made crisis on his first hunting trip. Zichun leaned against the center of the bonfire and slowly turned. The bone staff supported the ground, releasing a faint light. The law-breaking beast's eyes were fixed on him. Zichun was still refining the G energy. His injuries had recovered slightly. Once again, the second beam of energy had not been consumed. He took out the third beam, not daring to delay in the slightest. His power was being consumed one after another. The law-breaching beasts were still around, pacing around the bonfire. The vegetation here was extremely hard and resistant to fire. It was precisely because of the existence of these flames that Zichun felt slightly more at ease. If the surroundings were pitch black, it would be even more dangerous. This night was extremely torturous for Zichun, even more so than the first night. His power was constantly being depleted, but he didn't dare to stop at all. Wong. His eyes flickered as he activated his celestial spiritual eye to clearly see the law-breaching beasts around him. There were a total of 15 of them. This made Zichun even more wary of acting rashly. After 2 hours, Zichun had consumed 10 strands of energy, but the night was still long. Another 2 hours passed, and another 8 strands of extreme energy were consumed. Zichun's injuries were completely healed, but the total consumption of 18 strands of extreme energy was still astounding. Fortunately, he managed to keep his life. If it had been anyone else, they would have died long ago. After his injuries were healed, Zichun used all his strength to maintain the bone staff. At the same time, his eyes were fixed on the law-breaching beasts. If possible, Zichun didn't mind taking the initiative to attack. The bonfire was still burning. The firewood was extremely resistant to fire and occasionally crackled. These law-breaching beasts were also unwilling to give up. After all, they had been waiting here for an entire night. Suddenly, Zichun moved. Like an arrow released from a bow, he instantly appeared in front of a law-breaching beast and viciously smashed the bone staff in his hand. He attacked with all his strength. Bam! The law-breaching beast clearly didn't expect Zichun's sudden attack. Its body had just leaned back when Zichun's bone staff landed on its head. With a huge tremor, the law-breaching beast flew backward. In Zichun's left hand, the wooden staff danced and spun in a circle on the spot. Banging sounds rang out continuously, and the law-breaching beasts that rushed over were forcibly sent flying. Zichun retreated again and threw the wooden staff on the ground. Another wave of energy appeared in his hand. A piece of his back disappeared, and a piece of flesh on his leg was also missing. However, there was no blood flowing out of his body. Only extreme energy was constantly dissipating. Just as he suddenly attacked, the other law-breaching beasts also attacked. They were no longer afraid of the bone staff. Zichun was injured. The law-breaching beast that was hit in the head was rolling on the ground, struggling and screaming. It seemed to be in great pain. Zichun retreated to the bonfire again. The other law-breaching beasts didn't attack anymore. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over. The law-breaching beast let out a miserable cry, and its body was enveloped by the black gust of wind. Suddenly, countless lights appeared in the gust of wind. It looked like countless rules were circulating. The next moment, the gust of wind disappeared with the law-breaching beast. And in the place where the law-breaching beast disappeared, there were some extreme energies scattered. There were a total of 9 of them. Zichen's expression changed, and he felt that it was unbelievable. Was that a smaller version of the extreme vortex just now? Zichen's crystal stones had been exchanged from the maelstrom of extremity. However, just now, there seemed to be a smaller version of the extreme vortex in the gust of wind. It disintegrated the law-breaching beast's body, leaving behind extreme energies. The extreme energies were scattered there, and Zichen didn't pick them up. And the law-breaching beasts didn't seem to be interested in those energies. They just looked at Zichen. This stalemate lasted until the sky brightened. After Zichen could see things clearly without the immortal spirit eye, he had great confidence. At this moment, the law-breaching beasts retreated. The 9 extreme energies were scattered on the ground. After the law-breaching beasts left, Zichen picked them up. In just one night, Zichen had expended 23 strands of extreme energy and finally managed to preserve his life. These 9 energies were a pleasant surprise. The bonfire had been extinguished, and there was still some smoke rising. Zichen put away the bone staff, picked up the wooden staff, and walked back the way he came. He didn't meet anyone else along the way. In less than 2 hours, Zichen arrived at Law-Breaching City. Looking at the open gate from afar, his eyes were a little colder. Entering the gate, Zichen saw Tommy. The other party also saw Zichen and was shocked as if he had seen a ghost. You. He was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. Zichen quickly approached, holding the wooden staff in his hand tightly, and hit the other party's head hard. There was a loud bang. Tommy was sent flying. Help! Tommy fell to the ground, and the energy around him began to dissipate. He screamed in horror. Chapter 49:85. Zichen waved the long rod in his hand, forcing Tommy to retreat. Tommy's energy began to drain away, which was a sign of injury. He screamed and immediately used his energy to refine the energy. Go to hell. Zichen's eyes were filled with killing intent. The long rod in his hand hit Tommy's head. With a bang, Tommy rolled on the ground. Zichen stepped forward and the long rod in his hand fell again. He was about to smash Tommy's head. Bang! A wooden saber approached and blocked Zichen's attack. It was Derek. It was this wooden saber that stabbed him in the sky last night. When enemies met, their eyes turned red. Zichen gave up on Tommy and attacked Derek. Their weapons kept colliding. This was a pure competition of strength. Zichen was obviously stronger. After 5 consecutive strikes, Derek's weapon fell from his hand. Then, 2 wooden spears came from the left and right, blocking Zichen's wooden rod that was about to hit Derek's head. It was Willie and Ruffo. Zichen was forced back a few steps. Then, he charged forward again. Facing several people, he was not afraid at all. The rest of the people in the city heard the commotion and ran over. After seeing Zichen, the newcomer, everyone's expression changed. When Tommy and the others returned last night, they said that the newcomer Zichen did not listen to their advice and attacked on his own. He was ambushed by law-breaking beasts. They tried their best to save him but failed. So, they returned early. But today, when Zichen returned, he was looking for trouble with them. Everyone looked ahead. Zichen's combat strength was obviously very strong. Everyone was a force, but Zichen could suppress several people. His combat strength was tyrannical. Seeing Zichen's killing intent, many people's expressions changed. Some of them had already guessed the reason. In fact, Tommy and the others did not have a good reputation. The newcomers under them often disappeared mysteriously. Get lost! Zichen shouted and smashed the long rod in his hand. Although it was not sharp, it was full of strength. Bang! Lu Fu and Willie immediately retreated. They looked at Zichen and shouted, "Stop! No fighting is allowed here. In your eyes, are there still rules?" Derek had already gotten up from the ground and was angrily rebuking Zichen. "All of you must die." Zichen stared at them, his eyes full of murderous intent. At this moment, no rules could restrain him. Since it was the law of the jungle, there was no need to hold back. He forced a few people back again, then rolled on the ground and picked up Derek's wooden blade. Ignoring the 2 spears beside him, Zichen endured 2 attacks and arrived in front of Derek. The other party's face was filled with fear as he quickly retreated. Puff! The wooden saber in Zichen's hand pierced into his opponent's chest. You want to kill me? Just as well, I want to experience this feeling too. Zichen looked at Derek, his eyes cold. He pulled out the wooden blade once more and stabbed it into Derek's body. How do you feel? Zichen was smiling, but his smile was like that of a demon. Puff, puff. Zichen stabbed again and again, piercing into Derek's body. Derek was filled with fear. Energy kept circulating in his left and right hands, and his desire to live was very strong. The others were also scared silly and didn't dare to step forward. Do you even deserve to live? Zichun smiled mockingly and acted as if he was going to chop off Derek's arms to prevent him from absorbing energy. At this moment, a hand grabbed Zichen's arm. Scram! Zichun roared in anger, wanting to shake the other party off, but discovered that he didn't succeed. He was slightly surprised and circulated his energy again, but there was still no reaction. The hand that grabbed his arm was extremely strong and didn't budge at all. Zichun turned his head and saw a middle-aged man standing there. That's enough. The middle-aged man spoke. Who are you? Zichun stared at the other party, holding the wooden blade in his hand tightly. Zichun, how dare you not bow when you see the city lord? Tommy immediately shouted at Zichun. City lord? Zichun was stunned and a little surprised. However, he wasn't afraid. He stared at the other party and asked, Why are you stopping me? Fighting is not allowed here, the city lord of Shatterlaw City said. They ambushed me last night and threw me in the wilderness to attract the law-breaking beast. They took the opportunity to escape, Zichun said coldly. So, they all deserve to die. His words caused an uproar. Many people had guessed it. I know, but this is a city. Fighting is not allowed here, the city lord said. This is the rule here. All right, I will abide by the rules. Zichun said and pulled Derek out of the city. The city lord was very strong, and he didn't want to fight him. City lord, save me, Derek shouted in fear. If he was dragged out by Zichun, he would really die. Stop. The city lord reached out his hand again, wanting to stop Zichun. Zichun turned around and slashed down with the wooden blade in his hand. The city lord reached out his palm. In his palm, there were 2 rays of power lingering. The long blade hovered in his palm, motionless. 2 rays of power. Zichun's face changed. He immediately let go of Derek and slashed forward with all his strength. The city lord's palm moved slightly. Suddenly, a strange power spread out. With a loud bang, Zichun was sent flying, dragging the long saber in his hand along with him. The 2 of them weren't on the same level at all. What are you? Zichun looked at the other party. The other party's second attack had caused 2 rays of power to resonate. In the outside world, it was relatively simple because it was just an ordinary battle skill. But here, because of the different attributes, Zichun couldn't use any other battle skills except for his immortal spiritual eye. But just now, the city lord had used it. This is the law-breaking technique. Only 2 rays of power can master it. Seeing Zichun's confusion, the city lord took the initiative to explain. Zichun stood up and walked to the side to pick up the wooden blade. You want to fight again? The city lord looked at Zichun. Zichun didn't answer and asked, How does the city lord plan to deal with them? This is just your own words. And there's no evidence. It's hard to believe, the city lord said lightly. Yes, who would believe you? Derek immediately said. Zichun nodded. He understood the true meaning of the city lord's words. Then I'll wait for them outside. With that, Zichun turned and walked out of the door. Once outside the city, there were no rules to speak of. Everything could be done as usual. Zichun had a lot of extreme energy on him. He was confident that he could wait for them to come out. Derek and the others saw this and their expressions changed. If this continued, wouldn't they still die? They looked at the city lord, who turned and left. Obviously, he tacitly agreed with Zichun's actions. That wooden blade is mine, Derek shouted. Unfortunately, Zichun didn't care at all. He walked to the door, turned to face them, and sat down cross-legged. Seeing the city lord's 2 rays of power and his battle skills, Zichun saw some confidence. But before that, revenge must be taken. Chapter 4986. Zichun took out a strand of extreme energy and refined it. Previously, He was injured by the 2 wooden spears, and now he was starting to recover. Tommy and the others stood in the city. All of them had worried expressions. Zichen guarding there was equivalent to cutting off their path. If they went out, they would be killed. Although there was more than one gate, once they left the city, it would be the beginning of the danger. They looked at each other, but there was nothing they could do. Who would have thought that Zichen would be able to survive that kind of situation? How did he survive against so many law-breaker beasts with a broken stick in his hand? They couldn't understand. If he stays outside, he will only die. Derek said coldly, "We will exhaust him to death like this." The others weren't optimistic. Zichen could survive that kind of difficult situation last night. Now that he was outside the city, his chances of survival would be much higher, because the danger here was much lower. There was no show to watch, so the crowd dispersed. Zichen was still guarding outside. During this period of time, there were groups that left. When they passed by Zichen, they all looked at him curiously. Placing the long stick beside him, Zichen held the wooden blade tightly. After refining a strand of extreme energy, his injuries had already healed. Extreme energy had a wide range of uses. It could be used to heal life. It could also be used to heal injuries. It could be considered omnipotent. Tommy and the others had already returned. If they continued to stay outside, the consumption would increase. Obviously, the losses outweighed the gains. Time passed. The sky gradually darkened. Zichen, who had been standing there all this time, moved. He didn't return to the city, but went to the side to pick up some firewood and placed it at the city gate. The sky darkened. People came back one after another. After seeing Zichen standing outside the city, some of them had a strange expression. They all came back from outside. They didn't know what happened during the day. Zichen held the wooden blade, still standing there. Soon, the sky darkened. An old man came to the gate. He was about to close it. "Little brother, come in quickly." The old man saw Zichen standing outside and immediately shouted. Zichen shook his head. "Little brother, it's dangerous outside. Come back quickly." The old man added, "Don't be angry. Come back tomorrow morning. If you stay outside like this, you'll only consume more energy." Zichen cupped his fists at the other party and said, "Thank you, senior. I'll stay here and kill whoever comes out. If they don't come out, they can just die inside." Zichen had the confidence to exhaust them to death. Looking at the determined Zichen and the firewood next to him, the old man shook his head and sighed. "Then I'm going to close the shop. Be careful, little brother." Zichen nodded and turned around, his back facing the closed wooden door. As the flames rose, Zichen lit up 3 bonfires, 2 in front of him and 1 behind him. He sat not far from the wooden door. Even if there were spell-breaking beasts at night, they would not appear from this direction. As for Tommy and the others, if they dared to come out, he would make sure that they would never be able to return. The sky was completely dark, and the surroundings became extremely quiet. However, for some people in Spellbreaking City, it was clearly a sleepless night. In fact, the area here was not big. Instead of calling it a city, it was more like a small village. At this moment, many people saw the flames burning outside the fence. Many people were shocked. Daring to waste energy like this and waiting like this made Zichen even more determined to kill them. Tang Misai and the others were also paying attention to this scene. All of them were extremely shocked. At the same time, they were secretly regretting that they had provoked such a madman. Now, Zichen did not even enter the city at night. It was obvious that he would not rest until they were dead. Derek, who had once stabbed Zichen, closed the window. His eyes were extremely cold. "Humph! It's best if a spell-breaking beast comes and tears you apart tonight." Many people had the same idea. If one stayed outside alone, it was very likely that he would attract a spell-breaking beast. If Zichen was really killed by the spell-breaking beast that night, it would be the best thing that could happen to everyone. Still outside, the old man closed the door and went back. He lived in the mayor's mansion, which was a relatively large residence. The mayor stood at the door and looked at the old man. "That little bro is quite stubborn. He won't come in no matter what," said the old man. "This is not stubbornness, but confidence," the mayor said. "If he dares to stay outside alone, it means that he is not worried about wasting energy or spell-breaking beasts. Tommy and the others have really messed with someone they should not have messed with this time. The old man nodded. He was already used to this kind of thing. However, he did not expect Zichun to survive and come back. However, when he thought of the scene during the day when Zichun suppressed several people, the old man seemed to understand. Night fell. Some people fell asleep, while others were still paying attention to the outside. The bonfire was still burning, crackling from time to time. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the flames began to sway. Zichun's hair was slightly lifted. Zichun gripped the knife in his hand and opened his eyes. Within the range of the fire, everything was normal. There was no danger. He turned his head slightly and looked to both sides. There was nothing unusual. He closed his eyes again and allowed his heart to calm down completely. On his left hand, a beam of extreme energy was ready to be used at any time. After about an hour, Zichun opened his eyes again. This time, he saw a pair of eyes at the edge of the bonfire. Zichun used his immortal spiritual eye. His back was to the wooden door, so no one could see him. In his vision, there was a single spell-breaking beast. There was only one. Zichun's eyes lit up. He put away the extreme energy, picked up a piece of firewood in front of him, and then walked forward with the wooden knife in his hand. As he walked forward, the spell-breaking beast began to slowly retreat. Soon, the man and the beast walked into the darkness. However, Zichun had a torch in his hand, so he could still see a small area clearly. In the city, some people who were awake noticed this and immediately walked out of their rooms to look outside through the wooden door. They saw Zichun throw away the torch and slash forward with the wooden knife in his hand. In the dark night, there were occasional flashes of cold light. The man and the beast fought together. During this time, there were fluctuations of energy. This battle was mixed with Zichun's angry roars and the spell-breaking beast's roars. After about 10 breaths, everything returned to normal. Zichun's body was covered in wounds. The spell-breaking beast in front of him fell to the ground. Light appeared, forming a small extreme vortex and swallowing the spell-breaking beast's body. After a while, the extreme vortex disappeared, leaving behind 9 beams of extreme energy. Zichun put away these energies, took one in his hand, and walked over while refining it. Walking back to the bonfire, Zichun began to recover from his injuries. In the dark night, cries of surprise came from spell-breaking city. Chapter 4987. I have something to do, so I have no updates today. From tomorrow onwards, I will strive to keep updating this month. Thunder Warrior has no updates today. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4988. Cries of surprise rang out one after another. Many people walked out of their rooms and saw Zichun walk back to sit by the bonfire through the gap. He sat cross-legged and refined the extreme energy. A single person had killed a law-breaking beast. Everyone was moved. Thomasai and the others had heavy hearts. They felt extremely pressured. After returning to their rooms, they couldn't sleep for a long time. Zichun had killed a law-breaking beast and obtained 9 strands of energy. Not to mention that he could hold on for a while. This combat strength was already not something they could fight against. With Zichun guarding outside, they didn't dare to go out at all. In the end, they would die. Before the sky brightened, Tommy walked out of the room and went to find the others. These people didn't sleep. After Zichun's display of strength, no one could sleep. What should we do next? The few of them sat together, looking very worried. A cold light flashed in Derek's eyes. Damn it! Since we can't exhaust him to death, let's gather some people tomorrow and kill him together. Willie smiled bitterly. Who's willing to join? We'll give them extreme energy. I don't believe that no one will be willing. Derek had stabbed Zichun before. During the day, Zichun had snatched his wooden blade. His heart had always been filled with resentment, but of course, more than that, he was afraid. If it were any other time, maybe someone would. But this time, after seeing Zichun's strength, who would dare to make a move? Tommy also smiled bitterly. Guys, think about it. How many law-breaking beasts were there that night? Everyone's hearts tightened when they recalled the scene that day. Visually, There were more than a dozen law-breaking beasts. There were so many law-breaking beasts, but Zichun survived. How many people do you think we need to find to kill him? No one knew how Zichun had managed to survive. Then what should we do? Derek said. Do we just stay here until we run out of energy and are exhausted to death? At first, they thought that they could exhaust Zichun to death. But after what happened earlier, it was obvious that this was impossible. Zichun had the ability to kill lawbreaker beasts on his own. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for him to be exhausted to death. Let's reconcile. Tommy sighed helplessly. Reconcile? How is that possible? Derek said. Didn't you see how Zichun looked? He couldn't wait to cut us into pieces. The others also had strange expressions on their faces. Obviously, they didn't think this would work. Tommy looked at Derek. Derek's expression changed as he angrily said, Tommy, you're not going to push me out, are you? You want to sacrifice me so that you can live? The expressions of the others changed again, and the look in their eyes changed. After all, the one who had stabbed Zichun to death was Derek, not them. Speaking of which, the two sides did not seem to be in an irreconcilable situation. Just as everyone's expressions changed, Tommy said, What are you thinking? Of course, it is impossible for us to reconcile, but we can go to the city lord and ask him for help. No matter what, the city lord is the strongest person here. No matter how arrogant Zichun is, he still has to give the city lord some face. When the others heard this, they all nodded. As for Derek, he was also relieved. As long as he was not sacrificed, it was fine. However, at that moment, he noticed the change in everyone's eyes. He couldn't help but feel a little angry, but he didn't show it. The sky finally brightened. The old man came to the gate and opened it again. Zichun stood up. The flames around him had been extinguished. He stretched his muscles and turned to look at the old man. The old man smiled at Zichun. Little brother, you're really amazing. Obviously, the old man also knew that Zichun had killed a lawbreaker beast alone. Senior, you flatter me. I was just lucky. After the old man left, the others appeared. They all stood in the city and looked at Zichun curiously. For a single person to be able to kill a lawbreaker beast, this kind of battle prowess was rare. A muscular man walked towards the door. You're Zichun, right? I'd like to invite you to join our team. Zichun glanced at the strong man and said indifferently, not interested. I know what you're worried about. Don't worry, we're not Tommy and the others. We won't betray our teammates. The strong man said again, My name is Stuart. We only have 4 people in our team. You can consider it. Of course, Zichun wouldn't join, but he still nodded kindly and didn't say anything else. Stuart didn't get the answer he wanted. He rubbed his nose and felt a little embarrassed. However, it was understandable. Zichun had just been tricked. How could he join a new team? Zichun didn't see Tommy and the others. When they walked past Zichun, they were very curious about him. Zichun stood at the gate and waited. There were 2 gates in this small lawbreaker city. Perhaps Tommy and the others left through the other one. Zichun said, Everyone, if they leave, please tell them that they'll be rewarded with 2 strands of extreme energy. 2 strands of extreme energy was obviously a great reward. Many people's eyes lit up and they silently walked towards the other exit. As for Zichun's wealth, no one was surprised. After all, he could kill a lawbreaker beast alone. It was normal for him to have extra extreme energy. At this moment, Tommy and the others went to the city lord mansion and asked the city lord to help solve this matter. The city lord looked at them. They didn't dare to hide anything and told him what had happened. In fact, this kind of thing was normal. The city lord also knew about it. I'll go talk to Zichun. As for whether it'll work, I can't guarantee. The city lord went to look for Zichun amidst the continuous gratitude of the crowd. The city lord walked to the door and looked at Zichun with a smile. Guess what I'm here for? Zichun glanced at the city lord and shook his head. In fact, he had already guessed it. Living in this place is very difficult. So everyone's temperament is different. This kind of thing where others die but you don't die often happens. The city lord said, I'm very surprised that you survived. But if the others didn't die, I'll be very happy. The lawbreaker city was built here to give everyone a place to live. But the city might not be able to stop the lawbreaker beasts. Maybe at some point, the lawbreaker beasts will gather and attack this place. Zichen looked at the city lord. Has this happened before? The city lord shook his head. I don't know. Everyone says that I built this place. Actually, it wasn't. When I came here, this place was already here. But when I came in, there was no one here. There were only traces left by the lawbreaker beasts. Zichen's face changed. Obviously, everyone had been killed by the lawbreaker beasts. That was why there was no one here. If possible, I still hope that they can survive. After all, one more person means one more chance of survival. The city lord looked at Zichen. I hope you can let them go this time. Chapter 4989. Zichen didn't take too long to consider. He agreed to the settlement and stated his conditions. The city lord's meaning was clear. As an existence with two strands of power, Zichen knew that he couldn't defeat the other party. He could only agree to the settlement. Obviously, the city lord didn't want those people to die. The city lord was surprised. He thought that Zichen wouldn't agree. He didn't expect him to agree so quickly. Looking at the silent city lord, Zichen said, "This is my bottom line." The city lord nodded, indicating that he understood. Although he didn't know how Zichen survived, it wasn't easy. He must have consumed a lot of extreme energy. Although 30 strands of power was a lot, compared to the lives of those people, it wasn't much. The city lord left. Zichen was still standing outside. Before the power was delivered, he still wanted to kill. In fact, he still hoped that those people wouldn't agree. However, he knew that the possibility was very small. After the city lord left, Zichen pondered over the words of the city lord. Could it be that the people who used to live here were really killed by the law-breaking beast? But if that was the case, why was there a rule that helped him become a corpse fisherman when he was outside? Obviously, it was to let him live and the people here live. What was the meaning of their appearance here? Could it be an endless cycle and repetition? When the predecessors died, the descendants came in. When the number of people increased, the law-breaking beast would come to kill them. Was it an endless cycle? The city lord brought the message. As expected, those people jumped. 30 strands of power. That was 5 strands of power per person. It was equivalent to killing more than half of the law-breaking beast. Zichen didn't agree willingly. If you don't want to, then forget it, the city lord said indifferently and turned to leave. Yes, of course. Tommy immediately said. Compared to his life, a mere 5 strands of energy was nothing. Tommy immediately took out 5 strands of power to show his position. Seeing this, the others didn't insist. Originally, some people wanted the city lord to bargain, but now they gave up. This time, the city lord didn't appear. It was the old man who took out 30 strands of power. Little brother, put it away. Thank you. Zichen put away the extreme energy, then picked up the staff and the wooden saber beside him and walked back to his residence. Along the way, many people were pointing and whispering. They all saw Zichen take the power from the old man's hand. Today's 30 rays, in addition to yesterday's 9, made a total of 39 rays, and this did not include Zichen's original extreme energy. With so much power in his body, he was undoubtedly an extremely wealthy existence. Many people looked at Zichen with envy in their eyes. Of course, there were also other expressions among them. Zichen didn't greet anyone. After returning to his room, he collapsed onto his wooden bed. Although he was full of energy, he was mentally exhausted. While he was sleeping, Tommy and the others walked out. They first told everyone what had happened. Of course, the 30 strands of extreme energy were the main focus. Based on my estimations, Zichen has at least 50 strands of power, Tommy said confidently to the two of them. After the two left, they chatted with others and added a little more to this number. When the sky turned dark, everyone believed that Zichen had at least 100 strands of extreme energy on him. This number was enough to make people go crazy. When Zichen woke up, the sky was already dark, and he had fully recovered from the exhaustion he had expended. After recovering, he didn't need power anymore. Zichen wanted to break through. With 2 strands of power revolving around his body, his battle strength was obviously stronger than 1 strand. Looking outside the window, the sky was dark. Zichen gave up on the idea of going to the city lord. In the dark night, he took out a strand of power to refine. The power was being consumed, but there were no changes in his body. In one night, Zichun consumed a strand of power. Other than his spirit still high, he didn't gain anything else. When the sky turned bright, Zichun left his room and went to find the city lord. As soon as he walked out of the door, he noticed several people standing in the distance, looking in his direction. Zichun didn't care and went to the city lord's mansion. After seeing the city lord, Zichun directly told him his purpose for coming. The city lord smiled bitterly. Actually, I don't know how to break through either. Zichun looked at him in confusion. I broke through by accident. After that, I didn't make any progress, the city lord said helplessly. It didn't seem like he was lying. Then what about the art of breaking? Zichun asked. How did you learn it, city lord? The city lord said, after having 2 strands of extreme energy, you can learn a kind of art of breaking. Zichun didn't get the answer he wanted, but it was this uncertainty that caused the 2 strands of power to be so rare. He had to figure it out himself. Now, he had enough extreme energy in his body. He could try to refine as much as possible. According to his previous cultivation experience, as long as there was enough energy in his body, his realm would increase. Zichun stayed in his room and didn't go out. Whether it was day or night, he was refining the extreme energy. The people outside occasionally looked at Zichun's door anxiously. Staying in his room like this will consume a lot of energy. Does he have to wait until he runs out of energy before coming out? On the 4th day, someone knocked on his door and invited Zichun to go out hunting. Zichun refused. After refining the energy for a few days, his body didn't change at all. His battle prowess was still the same as before. However, he used up about 10 strands of extreme energy, which was equivalent to losing a law-breaking beast. Could it be that I'm on the wrong path? Zichun muttered in his mind. On the 5th day, he decided to go outside. Perhaps he would be able to break through if he encountered some kind of danger. Zichun opened the door and saw quite a few people around. As he came out, everyone's gazes shifted away. Zichun glanced at them but didn't care. He took the wooden club and blade and left the city. Should we remind him? The old man and the city lord stared at Zichun's back as he left. The city lord shook his head. If he dares to go out alone, he's naturally confident. We don't need to do anything unnecessary. Not long after Zichun left, 2 more groups left. One of them was Tommy's group. Zichun walked forward. Whenever he found a tree branch, he would deliberately pick it up. There were no law-breaking beasts here during the day, so he didn't know where they were hiding. Only at night would these law-breaking beasts come out. Because of that, all the hunting groups had to spend the night outside. As for whether they would encounter a single law-breaking beast or a group, that depended on luck. Chapter 4990. Noticing the people behind him, Zichun did not care. He was still picking up some firewood to use at night. In fact, Zichun had the urge to go back. After all, the old blind man had said that in the extreme vortex, one's power could be strengthened. However, the journey was too far, and no one knew what would happen on the way. After thinking about it, he chose to give up. The people behind him only had one force. Of course, Zichun was not afraid. Although there were many of them, in front of the bone staff, they were just a matter of being knocked down. Previously, Zichun wanted to use the bones of the law-breaking beast to refine a weapon. However, as long as the law-breaking beast was killed, the rules would appear and forcefully decompose its body, exchanging it for the purest energy. Zichun was very surprised by the restriction of the rules. Even if he had a world, and he was the master of that world, and the world could move according to his thoughts, he could not do this. This place was full of mysteries and miracles. Coming to a plain, Zichun put the firewood he carried on the ground, then turned around and continued to pick it up. He completely ignored those people who came. When he came back for the 2nd time, he found that the firewood he put together was thrown everywhere. Zichun frowned slightly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He continued to put down the firewood, picked up the previous ones, and left again. In this place, it was not easy to pick up firewood. When he came back, he saw the scattered firewood again. At the same time, there was a person sitting on a rock next to him. He crossed his legs and looked at Zichun with a smile. You did this? Zichun looked at him. No, it was already like this when I came. The other party smiled contemptuously and said, "Let's discuss something?" Zichen looked at him. "I haven't harvested for a long time. How about you lend me a few strands of extreme energy?" The other party looked at Zichen. "How many?" Zichen asked. 7 or 8, 10, 20. The other party didn't seem to have expected Zichen to ask such a question. After a slight hesitation, he said the largest number. Zichen asked again, "Why is it 20? I obtained 30 strands of energy from them." The man said, "I'm guessing that you've wasted a lot of them in the past few days, so I only need 20. Give me 20 strands of energy and I'll leave." Zichen put down the firewood and piled it up beside him. He said casually, "Didn't you say you wanted to borrow it?" A hint of anger immediately appeared on the man's face. "Are you playing dumb with me? I'm already very patient. Don't be so shameless." He took out the wooden sword from behind him, stood up, and pointed it at Zichen. "If you don't want to die, hurry up and take it out. Are you sure you don't want to call the others out?" Zichen was still piling up rocks. "If we don't call them out now, we might not have the chance later." The man's expression changed. He naturally knew Zichen's methods. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Cut the crap. You!" Before he could finish, Zichen turned around and pounced on him like a cheetah. Zichen's speed was so fast and unexpected that the other party couldn't react in time. His body fell heavily to the ground. Zichen took advantage of the situation and sat on him. His fists flew, constantly swinging and punching his body. The punches fell like rain, and the sound of punches rang out continuously. The other party wanted to curse, but at that moment, Zichen used his left hand to snatch the wooden sword from the other party's hand. Then, he slashed the other party's neck. His strength began to fade rapidly. His eyes were fixed on Zichen. "Why do you have to do this?" Zichen glanced at him, then stood up. The man clutched his neck with one hand and used the other to refine the energy in a panic. At this moment, he didn't even dare to scream, because he was worried that he would lose too much of his life. Pooh! After standing up, Zichen stabbed the long sword into the other party's chest again. The long sword pierced through the heart and into the ground. The man's body began to tremble. His eyes widened to the limit. With this kind of injury, even if he had strength in both hands, he couldn't save his life. "Why do you have to do this?" Zichen walked back and began to fiddle with the branches. He divided them up one by one for use at night. A few people appeared in the distance, but they didn't dare to approach. They stood there, looking at the scene in shock. The man's body continued to struggle. He was extremely unwilling. In the end, his body disappeared into thin air. Only a wooden sword remained, piercing the ground. Zichen placed the firewood in piles. There were a total of 7 piles. There were 6 piles on the sides and 1 pile in the middle. He deliberately enlarged the range of the firewood. While he was doing this, the others stood in the distance. Looking at the calm Zichen, these people had an indescribable feeling. The disappearance of their companion was a great blow to their hearts. After doing all this, Zichen was clearly exhausted. However, he wasn't in a hurry to recover. In the past, he didn't know anything about this place. The unknown made him afraid. But now, he understood the situation here, and even understood the situation of the others. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. The bone rod was his greatest advantage. The sealed heart could also help him recover. That was why Zichen was fearless now. Zichen sat down cross-legged and habitually began to cultivate, even though he knew it was useless. In another direction, Tommy and the others stood there. Naturally, they didn't look happy. They had killed one person so quickly and scared the other team. This was very troublesome. "We can't do it without a leader," Derek said in a deep voice. "The few of us have to do it. Together with the 6 of them, there's a total of 12 people. Can't we kill one person?" Tommy was still a little hesitant. He recalled the scene when Zichen fell to the ground last time. There were more than a dozen lawbreaker bees sighing him. How did he survive? "Don't be so wishy-washy. If we don't kill him now, we'll be killed by him in the future." Derek was the only one in the group who had attacked Zichen. Therefore, he knew that even if Zichen was willing to let the others go, he wouldn't let him go. He walked out. Everyone wanted to kill him. They just needed someone to take the lead. He was willing to be the one taking the lead. After Derek walked out, the expressions of Tommy's and the others changed. Zichun, Derek yelled. Zichun opened his eyes and looked at him. Derek walked forward. Tommy and the others could only follow behind him. As soon as these people moved, those who were watching from the sidelines also moved forward. Zichun estimated that there were a total of 12 people. If it were 12 lawbreaker beasts, he might be afraid. However, he wasn't afraid of 12 people.